The moment the young man touches a sword, he can learn the forging techniques of a grandmaster. Though he's never held a hammer, he can forge divine weapons. Even a highly skilled blacksmith is left speechless upon seeing his skills, as if witnessing a forging god. Just yesterday, Woojin was an ordinary kid. He got talked into messing with stuff by a buddy and ate a giant poisonous mushroom. The result was a trip that sent him to the moon. In his haze, Woojin felt like he was Uyezi, the one and only god of metallurgy. He spent 25 years forging 5 divine swords, and for that he ascended to the heavens and became a god. While everyone was congratulating him, a small accident sent a cup of wine splashing right in his face. Woojin snapped out of it. In the middle of his high, he suddenly heard a loud shout, "You quack! Do you even know if you're doing acupuncture or just poking holes? It hurts like hell." A wealthy-looking man stormed out of his family's clinic. Xiaozhong quickly explained, "These imperial court guys are so damn picky. Acting all high and mighty with a crappy attitude." He ran inside the house and saw his father sadly holding up a needle. It wasn't that his medical skills were bad, it was because the cheap needle was bent. Suddenly, Woojin heard a strange sound coming from it again. He didn't know what it was. It seemed normal this morning. Could it be because of the high from earlier? Woojin held the needle, his hands trembling with anger. "You call this a needle?" He walked while carefully observing the 2 needles, feeling more and more annoyed. For some unknown reason, the crappy goods on the street gave him an even bigger headache. They were a world apart from the high-quality swords crafted by the Grandmaster. Woojin caressed it, feeling a strange sense of bliss. A few girls saw him and thought he was a creep. Woojin seemed to realize something. Could it be because of my dream about Uyezi this morning? That I can see the craftsmanship of a Grandmaster Smith. It felt like all his techniques were on display, right before my eyes. Driven by curiosity, Woojin walked straight into a smithy to check. He brought the 2 needles to see Shi Jisheng, the son of the Grandmaster Smith Shi Yizhang. He asked about their quality but got yelled at. "What do you know to be lecturing me?" He pointed towards a pile of swords. "Enlighten me, what are the flaws in those?" In a flash, Woojin brought several of the most premium swords before him. Shi Jisheng was stunned. How could he tell? Those were the swords his father had forged. He could only try to brush it off. Shi Jisheng challenged him again. "If you're so good, do it yourself." That was all Woojin was waiting for. He moved like lightning, throwing wood and fanning the flames. Although relying only on knowledge from his dream, he wanted to give it a try. Every strike of the hammer came down, both slow and fast. He was so skillful that even Shi Jisheng was startled. It was as if he had been forging his entire life. "His skill is no less than my father's." In that instant, it was as if he could see Uyezi himself forging. Is this natural talent? More to more, I want to witness it all. Suddenly, Woojin stopped and said, "This is just the warm-up." After that, he personally created a superb set of needles for his old man to practice with. From then on, even the high officials who came to his clinic were satisfied, praising him endlessly. Some people finished their acupuncture and felt like they hadn't been poked at all. It's comfortable with absolutely no pain. It's truly miraculous. Just like that word of his family's clinic spread far and wide. It gradually became the most famous in the city. Every day, large crowds came for acupuncture, jostling for a place in line. Suddenly, an arrogant person cut the line. The sound of a scuffle made him run out curiously. He saw only a swordsman exuding an aura of danger, pointing his blade straight at the other person. The old man's movements were as fast as lightning. "If you want to know my name, I am..." Somehow, sword strokes were already deeply carved into the other person's chest, spelling the name Guai Yi. His technique was just enough to cut the skin without causing danger. Woojin realized the old man was a great master. The name Guai Yi sounded a little familiar. When he remembered, his face instantly filled with panic. He was the medical court murderer, an extremely dangerous man. This was a great master who roamed the martial world, one of the 3 great physicians of the realm, an eccentric, who used his medical skills and the blade in his hand to decide fates. Right now, the lives of people, whether men or women, were ending one by one. He judged life and death without distinguishing between good and evil. Moreover, he was a murderer who had slaughtered dozens of innocent physicians across the Central Plains. This scene terrified Woojin to his core. His eyes widened as he muttered to himself, "This is bad. Father." Then Woojin looked intently at Li Chong's back. He let out a loud shout. Kneeling on the brick ground, Woojin frowned in anger, and then shouted, "Over there is my father's clinic." He was extremely worried, and quickly reached out, wanting to dash straight ahead. Suddenly, Zhensong placed a hand on Woojin's shoulder, stopping him in his tracks. Woojin was stunned. He turned his head to look behind him, and saw Zhensong speaking. "Woojin." He clenched his teeth, suppressing the rage within him. "You can't fight him, Zhensong, a martial master of the Qingcheng sect." Hearing this, Woojin became even more confused. He waved his hands frantically in front of Zhensong. "Master, why do you say we can't fight him? What if it were the branch master? He could stop him, right?" Beads of sweat formed on Zhensong's forehead. He closed his eyes, conflicted. Even my master couldn't stop Guai Yi. Wu Jin hesitated, interrupting Zhensong. But he's evil Guai Yi. Seeing this, he could only shake his head helplessly. Even my master back then, and had his life saved by Guai Yi, the branch master of the Qingcheng sect. Wu Jin's face was filled with astonishment. He stared wide-eyed as he thought of the branch master's faint image. His life was saved by Guai Yi. Immediately, Wu Jin collapsed, kneeling beside Zhensong. He hung his head dejectedly. A choked sob escaped his throat. Zhensong silently patted his hand, comforting Wu Jin. Father. His hand gently touched Wu Jin's shoulder. He spoke. If it's just because of his bad reputation, don't worry too much. Zhensong spoke frankly, as he faced the bright red door. The Guai Yi I met was indeed eccentric, but he is absolutely not a cruel man. Suddenly, Li Chong swung his arm, pushing the 2 doors open. They flew wide open. Li Chong strode in confidently. He smiled, his eyes full of determination. Wu Jin, however, stared intently at Li Chong's sword, unable to look away. He was extremely excited when he saw that the sleeve of Li Chong was not stained. Wu Jin whispered softly, "The sleeve is still clean." Only then did Wu Jin let out a long sigh of relief. He closed his eyes in relief. Thank goodness. Suddenly, Li Chong spoke. At the same time, he placed a hand heavily on Wu Jin's shoulder. Hey! A mysterious smile appeared on Li Chong's face. I hear you have a good doctor who's also a blacksmith around here, is that right? Li Chong leaned in close to Wu Jin's ear and inquired, You know him, don't you? Hearing this, his whole body trembled. He obediently answered him. Yes, of course I do. Li Chong seemed quite satisfied. He patted Wu Jin's shoulder and ordered, Is that so? Then you lead the way. Wu Jin glanced over at Li Chong, then quickly obeyed. Yes. His eyes were locked on the old sword hilt that the man wore at his side. Sweat covered Wu Jin's face. He tried to suppress the fear inside him. Wu Jin jumped slightly as soon as he heard Li Chong's voice. Ring out, Hey! He turned his head to look to the side. Then Li Chong gave a somewhat creepy smile. Why haven't you left yet? I'm busy. This scene made Wu Jin even more flustered. He clenched his teeth and stammered, Yes. Smoke rose from the chimney of the wooden building, a thick black smoke. Yes. At the same time, Li Chong raised an eyebrow. He pointed forward with a look of astonishment. Are you saying it wasn't your father? But you who made it? Wu Jin clasped his hands together. He smiled obediently and nodded. Yes. Hearing that made Li Chong burst out laughing. Delighted, he threw his head back and exclaimed, Of course. The weirdest things in the world all gather in Sichuan. Spit flew from his mouth. Li Chong didn't seem to care at all. Now a doctor's son is taking up metalworking. The muscular young man standing next to Wu Jin curiously asked, Who is he? Wu Jin quickly covered his mouth and explained, He's someone from the martial world. Meanwhile, Li Chong was laughing so hard he was crying. He raised a hand to wipe a tear from the corner of his eye. Who cares what anyone does? It's been a long time since I've had such a good laugh. You're Tang Wu Jin. Right, make me 30 needles. Then Li Chong held out a glittering piece of gold, dazzling both Wu Jin and the person next to him. Payment will be in this. Both of them were extremely surprised, staring wide-eyed at the piece of gold in his hand. Li Chong tossed the gold ingot. Wu Jin immediately caught it with both hands. At the same time, he bowed his head gratefully and exclaimed, Thank you, my lord. Please stay and have a meal. I will finish before sunset. Hearing this, Li Chong was somewhat surprised. He frowned slightly. Li Chong's voice suddenly rang out, Before the sun sets. Today, Tang Wu Jin? Quickly nodded. Yes. This made him feel even more incredulous, and he asked again, Not a few months from now. But today, Wu Jin still replied calmly. That's right. Hearing that, he tilted his head to size him up. Even a renowned master smith would take several months. Holding the piece of gold, Wu Jin beamed. His eyes seemed glued to the gold piece. I can do it today. Li Chong frowned in annoyance. He showed clear disgust and contempt on his face. That material isn't ordinary, and it's not something you make in advance. Yet he dares to promise it'll be done in a day. This kid must be lying because he's greedy for the gold. Wu Jin was still lost in the moment, holding the glittering piece of gold. I'll start on it now. Your needles will be superior to my father's, and more exquisite. Next he clenched his fist confidently. Wu Jin used a serious tone. Please don't worry, old sir, I will definitely succeed. The muscular young man standing nearby pointed at him and praised, Yes, he really can do it. The atmosphere between the three of them became quiet. Li Chong watched the two of them intently. Suddenly he flung his purple cloak, causing Wu Jin to stare in stunned silence. The sword on his back seemed to radiate an invisible pressure, terrifying everyone. A few drops of sweat ran down Wu Jin's cheeks. His eyes widened as he thought to himself, I was so busy staring at the gold I almost forgot about the blade. Just as he was trembling with fear, Li Chong nonchalantly sat down in a chair. He gave Wu Jin a warning look, along with a dangerous smile. Give it a try. If you can't do it, you'll have to answer to me. Wu Jin's piercing scream seemed to fly higher than the smoke from the chimney. Yes. Suddenly, sparks shot out from inside the chimney. The flickering flames danced around the dry firewood. Meanwhile, Li Chong silently observed Wu Jin and his friend beside him working diligently. A thought flashed through his mind as he remembered the perfect acupuncture needles. You have to draw hundreds of steel threads, file each one, then select the ones that aren't warped. Only then is the most difficult part finished. In front of Li Chong was the sight of Wu Jin, raising a hammer high to make the needles. The needles of the Tang Clan? I can't possibly be made by luck. Let me see for myself. His eyes were locked on Wu Jin's powerful hammer-wielding arm. But this guy is a doctor. So how are his muscles so solid could it be? Suddenly a loud noise rang out, grabbing Li Chong's attention. The black smoke billowed higher and higher, accompanied by the sound of forging. Wu Jin gripped the hammer tightly in his palm, then swung it high. Li Chong was startled. He stared intently at the act of using the hammer to shape the metal by Wu Jin. Surprise flickered in his eyes. Wu Jin's muscles rippled, especially as he used his strength to grind the hard piece of metal. The hammer struck the piece of metal that was heated red hot. Then Wu Jin used tongs to fold it into two pieces. Next, he continuously used the hammer to forge it thinner. Wu Jin forcefully threw the piece of metal, while simultaneously swinging the hammer high with force. This scene was clearly reflected in Li Chong's pupils. Wu Jin's calm voice rang out, while the chimney was still hard at work. Sorry to have kept you waiting. Despite the sweat pouring down his face, he still smiled happily. Here are the needles you ordered. Faced with Li Chong's excited expression, Wu Jin was even more surprised. He clutched the gold ingot tightly. What, you want me to become your disciple? Wu Jin quickly backed away. He cautiously observed him. Then he asked, Why me? Li Chong explained simply, Is there any other reason? I can see you're not the type to just rot away in a clinic. He furrowed his brows tightly. At the same time, Li Chong forced a savage, threatening smile. So you don't want to? Hearing this, Wu Jin avoided his gaze. He was so flustered that he stammered. No, it's not that I don't want to. It's just... Wu Jin rested his chin on his hand, thinking. He bowed his head in contemplation, then spoke his mind. I'm also getting used to being a blacksmith. You say you'll take me as a disciple. But what can I learn from you? This question seemed to amuse Li Chong. He smirked and replied, You ask what you can learn? Immediately, Li Chong quickly reached for the sword hilt at his side. At the same time, a flash of light appeared between his two fingers. To Wu Jin's surprise, Li Chong stood calmly and answered, I can teach you two things. Wu Jin crossed his arms and muttered softly, What is it? White smoke from... The furnace rose up still with traces of moisture on it. The muscular young man at that moment was horrified when he saw 3 acupuncture needles stuck in his shoulder. Since when were the needles? Wu Jin was terrified when he saw the surrounding tables and chairs, smashed to pieces. Then he turned to look at the man beside him. Martial arts and medicine. Li Chong smirked smugly. He raised an eyebrow and extended an invitation. So you want to learn? Hearing this, Wu Jin pursed his lips to control his emotions. Thoughts flashed through his mind. The disciple of a supreme master, and also one of the 3 great physicians in the world. It seemed as if Wu Jin saw the magnificent scenery of a grand city, and he was standing before its gate. Isn't this an opportunity to learn both martial arts and medicine? Moreover, despite his bad reputation, if I become Guai Yi's disciple, the Qing Cheng sect wouldn't dare to look down on our clinic anymore. However, his voice filled with many questions suddenly rang out. Why is the old sir giving me this opportunity? Li Chong replied calmly. Traveling with a blacksmith, who's quick and skillful, would be very convenient. Wu Jin flinched and glanced at him nervously. And for that reason, seeing this, Li Chong put an arm around his shoulder and proposed, In return, I will teach you martial arts and medicine. Isn't that a good deal? Wu Jin's face turned pale. He was sweating but maintained a polite demeanor. This relationship isn't simply master and disciple, it's just a contract. Li Chong casually put his arm around his shoulder. A contract is a contract. What's the difference? Suddenly he gestured forward. At the same time he smiled and asked, A patient possessed by an evil aura, with reversed qi and blood flow, a body that's cold all over, and trembling limbs, what should be done? How would you treat it? Hearing this, Wu Jin immediately stood up straight. He answered seriously. First clear the dampness, then give them a decoction of poria and licorice. Li Chong was very pleased and nodded repeatedly. Good, you pass. Then he moved to stand shoulder to shoulder with Wu Jin again, and chatted amiably. Someone who has memorized the treatise on cold damage and the inner canon is qualified to learn martial arts. Wu Jin was timid but still managed a forced smile. What does that have to do with anything? He then spoke up. Do you think martial arts only require strength? Wu Jin's face was filled with astonishment upon hearing Li Chong's words. He had just uttered, "Try teaching a fool and you'll see." At the same time, he used 2 fingers to bring an acupuncture needle close to Wu Jin. Even if you serve up the true teachings on a golden platter, he wouldn't recognize it. Those people just wave their arms around meaninglessly. In the end, they're just mediocre. Wu Jin muttered to himself, mediocre. Li Chong opened his palm and explained patiently. Like this set of needles, how can an ordinary person understand its subtlety? Suddenly, Wu Jin stared intently at Li Chong. He hesitantly called out, "So old, sir." His voice carried a mix of nervousness and determination. "Can I become a first-rate master?" Li Chong was somewhat surprised to hear his words. He repeated again, "First-rate." Then Wu Jin tilted his head and walked out the door. Li Chong's voice still echoed in his ears. "A good wine needs no bush. You should understand what I mean." He clenched his hand into a fist. Wu Jin gritted his teeth, enunciating each word. "At the very least, it means—" His face was full of determination. Wu Jin left the building step by step. A spark of hope seemed to flash in his eyes. Wu Jin laughed gleefully. "I must reach the absolute pinnacle." He immediately threw a punch into the air. Next, Wu Jin spun around and delivered a high kick. Shouting, he performed various martial arts stances. In absolute excitement. Suddenly, Wu Jin's ankle lost balance and twisted to the side. He then tumbled to the ground. Even so, Wu Jin still laughed happily. Suddenly, his father walked up right beside him. Wu Jin quickly stood up. At the same time, he obediently bowed his head to greet his father. "I've returned late." A smile remained on his face as he stood before him. Suddenly, Wu Jin's father placed a trembling hand on Wu Jin's shoulder. This made him extremely worried, and he quickly supported his arm. "Father, are you okay?" He looked up, revealing eyes filled with tears. Wu Jin's father gritted his teeth and stammered. "I heard you were leaving with Guai Yi. I was afraid something bad had happened." His body trembled due to old age. "When he came to the clinic, I just thought he was a curious martial artist. Are you still safe?" Wu Jin smiled and explained to his father, "Yes, he's not as scary as the rumors say." With Wu Jin's help, the old man walked into the house with him. "That's good. Jen Song said so too. It's good that you're okay. But why did you take him to the smithy for so long?" Wu Jin replied in a low voice. "The thing is—" As soon as Wu Jin started speaking, his father was already lost in thought. "He wants to take you as his disciple, and gave you until tomorrow to decide." A bead of sweat rolled down Wu Jin's cheek. He worriedly turned his head to observe him. Guai Yi is surely not an empty title. To suddenly want to form a master-disciple bond. Wu Jin saw that his father's body was trembling more and more violently. Worried, he spoke up, "Father." His hand stopped in midair. Wu Jin forced a smile and looked at him, standing silently. "Why did you suddenly stop talking?" Suddenly, he quickly left Wu Jin behind and ran straight into the house. Wu Jin panicked and reached out to grab him. "Father." A moment later, he returned and stopped in front of Wu Jin. In Wu Jin's father's hands were silver ingots, glittering brightly, wrapped in white cloth. Wu Jin took the silver. He stared at them in a daze, then looked up and asked him, "Why are you giving me so many silver ingots?" Wu Jin's father simply instructed him, "You should be on your way." Wu Jin was momentarily stunned. He widened his eyes and hesitantly asked, "Yes, go." "But father, the house is short-handed right now." Then he sighed and explained dejectedly, "Besides, he has a reputation as Guai Yi. It might just be a temporary joke." Suddenly, he reached out towards Wu Jin. He muttered, "Being short-handed doesn't matter." Next, Wu Jin's father placed his hands on Wu Jin's shoulders. He brought his face close to his and growled, "You can go." But only at this moment. Wu Jin. Hearing this, Wu Jin was extremely grateful and opened his round eyes wide. It was as if he once again saw the ancient tree right in front of him. Father remained still like an ancient tree. The wind gently blew through Wu Jin's hair. He silently observed everything. "But from your words, I've had a revelation. The sight of many butterflies flying around the ancient tree suddenly appeared before Wu Jin's eyes. That my father was also once a young man." Wu Jin closed his eyes tightly, sitting on the lush green grass, feeling the spiritual energy flowing into his body. "It's been exactly 2 days since I started learning martial arts, and I've successfully circulated the small heavenly cycle. For the first time, my whole body clearly feels every acupoint. 3 days. 4 days have passed. The internal energy is weak, but it's clearly accumulating bit by bit, day by day." His hair was gently lifted by the magical energy. Wu Jin slowly opened his eyes after integrating the spiritual energy into his body. This feeling, how should I put it? I think I've gotten stronger. No, I've taken another step forward. He sat under the tree, his body enveloped in magic, muttering to himself, "Only now can I leave. Only now." A sense of gratitude welled up in Wu Jin's heart. "Thank you, father." A chestnut was thrown down forcefully by Li Chong, carrying a question. "What are you already missing home?" He didn't notice the chestnut bouncing off his head, but looked up, meeting Li Chong's gaze and replying, "No, old sir. He sat in the tree hands on his thighs, watching Wujin intently. He jumped to his feet, clenching his fists and sharing excitedly. Today I feel my internal energy has increased even more than yesterday. Hearing this, Li Chong jumped down to face him. He praised him. Good, this is interesting. Wujin couldn't hide his excitement and asked, "So just as you said, old sir, I do have a talent for this, right?" He lifted his lips into a smile, his eyes darting too. Evaluate him. Talent is one thing, but your speed of accumulating internal energy is only average. Wujin grinned, flashing a bright smile, and threw a punch to show off his achievement. Normally, it takes an ordinary person 10 days to complete the small heavenly cycle, but I did it in just a few days, didn't I? His body was full of energy. He thought positively about his dreams. It must be because of the dream about Uyezi. That's how I was gifted with some martial arts talent. Li Chong wondered in confusion. Gifted with talent? He picked up a sword and threw it to Wujin. Startled, he opened his eyes wide and caught the sword in his hands. Then Li Chong went to get a wooden stick and held it up. He smiled and pointed the end of the stick at Wujin, proposing, "If you're so confident, try swinging your sword. I'll give you some pointers. If you can just cut a piece of my robe, I'll carry you out of Sichuan on my back." Li Chong's face was full of pride as he looked at him. Wujin drew the sword from its steel sheath. Its reflection shone on his pale face as he stammered, "Really?" He was somewhat lacking in confidence when it came to using a real sword. He uttered confusedly, "But this is a real sword, it's so sharp. If I get hit once, I'll die." Wujin, sweating on his pale face, objected. "No way, how can I—" He suddenly imagined himself wielding the sword, skillfully attacking. "But I've been improving for 10 days now. Maybe—" Wujin's eyes widened as a thought flashed through his head. "Maybe I can land a surprise hit while he's off guard." His eyes lit up. While Li Chong was turned away cleaning his ear, he gripped his sword and charged. He still hadn't made a move. He just casually blew on his finger. "A sneak attack, huh?" Li Chong stomped his foot hard on the grassy ground. Immediately, a fierce magical energy erupted. "Getting so confident after only 10 days, are you?" Wujin's eyes narrowed, full of determination, as he roared, "Attack!" Only then did he nonchalantly turn around and raise the wooden stick in his hand. Wujin's sharp sword met Li Chong's solid wooden stick. He gritted his teeth, his hand tightening on the sword. He put all his strength into the attack, his heart filled with confusion. "I'm striking wood with a sword, so why does it feel like hitting steel? It didn't even leave a scratch." Li Chong looked at Wujin's expression and ordered, "Clench your teeth." He stared wide-eyed in confusion, repeating, "Clench my teeth." He suddenly curled his lips, a dangerous smile spreading across his face as he channeled spiritual energy into the wooden stick. Wujin's eyes widened as he felt the source of the magic inside the wooden stick. "This is the void flow chi." He raised his eyebrows, clenching his teeth and guessing, "Like the water flow chi." "No." Beads of sweat streamed down Wujin's face. He strained against Li Chong's strength. "It's many times stronger." Before long, he had sent Wujin flying backward. In the middle of the forest, a thick plume of smoke rose violently. He propped himself up on the grass and threw up after the fight. Li Chong raised the wooden stick high, looking at Wujin and asking, "How was it? Was your first taste of internal energy fun?" He raised a hand to wipe his mouth, glancing over at him. "This is—" Wujin's face turned pale, his eyes narrowing as he cried out in frustration. "This is ridiculous. Isn't whoever has the most internal energy the strongest?" Li Chong burst out laughing, somewhat agreeing with him. "You're partly right to think that." Li Chong rested the wooden stick on his shoulder, looking down at Wujin and explaining a little. "I don't have a surplus of internal energy myself, so I still avoid direct clashes of power. But martial arts aren't that simple, and why are you in such a hurry? After all, you're just a physician," he asked with suspicion. "Or is there someone you want to punish?" Wujin stood up dejectedly and shared his feelings. "You said you would train me to be a supreme master, but based on this amount of internal energy, it will be difficult to achieve in this lifetime." Hearing that, Li Chong, without hesitation, used the wooden stick to hit him hard on the head. He pointed the stick straight at Wujin's face and lectured him seriously. "Even if your internal energy is low, and your techniques aren't flashy, there are still countless paths to becoming a top master. When you received my internal energy just now, you also tried to channel your internal chi into the sword to defend, then pulled back right." Seeing him stunned, Li Chong added, "That's also one way to go, so how about we try again? This time I won't use my internal energy." Wujin was sweating, his lips pressed together as he looked at him resolutely. He regained his momentum, raising his sword and hesitatingly uttering each word. "In that case," Wujin's brows furrowed, brimming with determination. He planted his feet firmly on the grassy ground. Before long, Wujin leaped up towards Li Chong. He raised his sword high, his eyes wide as he charged towards Li Chong, growling, "I will get my revenge on you." He grimaced, closing his eyes and raising the wooden stick to block the blow. Wujin saw the shift, and his face immediately relaxed, happy in his heart. It hit, but Unexpectedly, Li Chong swept past him, striking him directly on the forehead with incredible speed. The battle ended. When he dropped his sword and fell to the ground, Li Chong turned back to look at Wu Jin's exhausted face and let out a laugh. Even without internal energy, you would have died 3 times already, right? He squatted down his hands on his thighs, observing Wu Jin and commenting, "Your speed of accumulating internal energy isn't fast." Li Chong tapped him lightly on the head, calmly assessing his physique. "You don't have the type of physique that can unleash maximum internal energy." Wu Jin stared intently at him, waiting for his next words. But Li Chong spread his arms wide, pointing out his strengths. "You have your own advantages. You have a keen sense for internal qi, and you can circulate it quickly and accurately. Your swordsmanship is only third-rate, but you already knew to infuse the sword with internal qi just now. At the very least, you've reached a second-rate level." He offered sincere encouragement. "If you keep fumbling around like this, you'll find your way eventually." Li Chong squinted, stroking his chin and offering praise. "To achieve this in just 10 days is already excellent." Wu Jin hung his head low, his whole body trembling as he uttered, "Do you mean—" He looked up, clenching his fists, full of life as he cried out, "Am I already a second-rate martial artist?" Li Chong frowned and hit Wu Jin on the head. "I really shouldn't have praised you at all." He was filled with determination. "No, I am a genius." Wu Jin and Li Chong's faces hardened. They looked towards where the sound had come from. He looked at the faint figure in the distance and guessed, "Is it a wild beast?" Li Chong retorted, "No, it has 2 legs. It's a person." Wu Jin and he hid behind a bush, peering at the person in the forest. Jijai looked to his left, unaware that he was being watched by 2 people. Wu Jin quickly noticed the 3 knots on his belt. 3 knots. Li Chong's expression tensed. He asked grimly, "Why is a branch master out here in the middle of these woods?" He was startled to hear that. A branch master? Doesn't that make him a top-tier master? Wu Jin exclaimed in surprise, "A strange plague." Jijai smiled brightly, clasping his hands in greeting as he replied, "That's right, a plague is ravaging the village. People are on the brink of death. I must go find a physician from elsewhere. Would you be willing to come with me? It's a rare blessing. I am Geje, branch master of Juyi village." He found it hard to understand. "Even if you got lost, so what? The journey should only take 4 hours, but you've been lost for half a day." Jijai scratched his head, gesturing forward as he explained awkwardly, "It's because I've never left Juyi village in my entire life," Wu Jin replied, holding his belt. "It's a good thing you haven't caught the plague." Jijai walked ahead, bowing his head sadly as he recounted, "My master and I managed to escape as well. About a month ago, people in the village started getting weaker. At first we thought it was just a dry cough, the kind that's common in the spring. But gradually half the village fell ill and about 20 people died. Amidst a sea of fire, men carried the deceased to be buried. Jijai, with a bag around his neck, looked back at the villagers with regret and continued, "I also considered leaving with the others to escape the plague." Dark circles from exhaustion were visible under his eyes. "But this land is where I've lived my whole life. I couldn't abandon the people in the village, so my master and I stayed behind to help the sick." Jijai revealed his initial intention. "At first I was helping the village physician, but the medicinal herbs gradually ran out." He recalled the physician's instructions. "Before heading to the mountains to gather herbs, my master told me to take good care of the patients until he returned. I'll be back in a few days. Just hang on a little longer." His eyebrows and eyes drooped, revealing his worry. "But the deadline has passed and there's still no sign of my master. Perhaps that spiritual herb is just too hard to find." Jijai's sorrowful expression changed, and he cheerfully turned back, clasping his hands in gratitude. "Thank you so much, great physicians. Thanks to you, the way is much clearer now." Wu Jin stood with Li Chong, and he looked at the houses in the distance. "We've arrived." Hongjian opened the door to a house and weakly invited them in. "Please come in." Hongjian, protector of Juyi village. As the old man entered, Wu Jin followed behind him. On a thin white cloth lay a boy drenched in sweat. His eyes were shut tight and his body was covered in boils. He knelt down, taking the boy's hand to assess the situation. Then Wu Jin let go of the boy's hand. He stared at the beads of sweat on his own hand. His brows furrowed. His eyes widened as he mentally diagnosed the boy's condition. "Just a preliminary check of the pulse reveals profuse sticky sweat. The pulse is weak, the ears are hot, but the hands are not. Repressed fire energy is rushing to the head." Wu Jin turned to the person next to him. He asked the person next to him, "Has this child vomited?" The man held a cloth to his nose. He bluntly listed the symptoms. "Yes, he complained of a headache and dizziness." Li Chong stood to one side, hand on his chin, observing him examine the boy. He listened thoughtfully to Wu Jin's diagnosis. "Damp heat, a stagnant and rapid pulse agitation, and vomiting. This is a plague, elder." The man asked, "So do you know the exact name of the disease and the remedy?" He analyzed the illness with a serious expression. "It seems like summer heat fire toxin, but it's not, because it lacks that specific pungent odor. Wu Jin moved his hand slightly. He explained the severity of the disease. But if left untreated, the fire energy will rush to the brain, causing idiocy or blindness. So we need to perform acupuncture on the Renyi and Muchang points, Jingying, Shengling, and Legong. For medicine, depending on the progression, use Mai Mendong and Gualu Ren, Jigung and Beimu. Li Chong stroked his beard, a proud smile on his lips. He said, "You have indeed studied the inner canon very well. In that case, try performing the acupuncture yourself." Wu Jin was stunned, unable to believe what he just heard. "Yes." Without further hesitation, he began to take his tools out of his bag. Wu Jin held up a small, sharp needle. His lips trembled as he held the needle in one hand. With his other hand on the boy's leg, he thought, "The Renyi point must be here. But I've never held a needle before. Can I do this?" Li Chong approached. He pointed 2 fingers at Wu Jin's hand to transfer his spiritual energy. He raised his eyebrows, confused by Li Chong's action. Then he heard the explanation. "Did you think I taught you breathing and circulation techniques just for martial arts? As a physician, to have such a refined sense of internal energy as you do is a rare blessing indeed." Wu Jin's eyes widened with hope. Li Chong's magical energy enveloped both him and the boy. Wu Jin looked at the boy's forehead. A red stream of energy appeared as he thought. "Master's energy is guiding my own. It's like seeing pebbles in a clear stream. Everything is crystal clear, and I can even see the killing energy." After a moment, Li Chong withdrew his fingers and his energy. "You felt the killing energy?" He replied, "Yes." Wu Jin then focused, listening to his instructions. "Then insert the needle. See how the killing energy changes." He inserted the needle into the boy's leg, making him cry out. Then Wu Jin moved up, transferring energy, with a light insertion below the boy's chest. Li Chong watched as he placed each needle on the boy's head. When he was finished, Wu Jin raised his hand to wipe the sweat from his forehead. His eyes were wide open, fixed on the boy, not missing a single moment. The boy's body trembled slightly. His breathing became rapid. Wu Jin's face grew tense. The boy opened his mouth and let out a cry, then exhaled a puff of red gas. A look of relief washed over Wu Jin's eyes. The boy's breathing gradually returned to normal as he drifted into sleep. Everyone was silent. All attention was focused on the boy. Wu Jin gently closed his eyes and let out a sigh of relief. He was a bit surprised to see Li Chong's hand resting on his shoulder. "Thank goodness." Wu Jin looked up at him and said, "Elder." Li Chong smiled and said, "Today was really a day where you learned a lot, didn't you?" He looked at the sweat-drenched face, praising Wu Jin for his efforts. "After all these trials, the way you look now is the best. Perhaps it's because you've truly become a physician." Outside the house, a dark figure appeared from a distance, turned its back, and left. The man walking in front led the way. He also told Wu Jin and Li Chong about the physician. "Are you talking about Physician Yan when the plague broke out? The physician spent his entire fortune to treat the villagers. He kept insisting that only expensive herbs from afar would be effective. In the end, he gave the money to a medicinal herb merchant." He clutched his bag strap, amazed. "He's truly a kind physician." The man agreed and added, "Yes, indeed. When we heard that, the whole village pooled their money to use when the herb merchant arrived. But in a mountain valley like this, how could an herb merchant possibly visit every day?" The man's continued story left Wu Jin stunned. So the physician went into the mountains himself, hoping to find herbs to hold out until then. "To be honest, I usually can't stand seeing that Uncle Sean loafing around. He really gets on my nerves. But if he hadn't brought the physician this time, I'm afraid my son would have soon." The man laughed loudly. He pointed towards the house in front of them. He confessed, "Thinking of my sick child is the only thing that calms my anger. Anything more I say would be rambling. This is the house right here. Even though it's empty, it shouldn't be too inconvenient for you." After giving directions, the man turned to leave. "Please get some rest." Wu Jin and Li Chong calmly entered the wooden house. His gaze stopped at an old cabinet door. Then Li Chong's eyes shifted to the table, illuminated by the faint light from outside. He suddenly noticed a doll lying on the floor at his feet. Li Chong's eyebrows knitted slightly, his face showing a hint of suspicion. He bent down, carefully examining the doll on the floor. Li Chong picked it up while Wu Jin had just placed his bag on the bed. He quietly asked a question. "He really is a good physician, isn't he?" Li Chong was slightly startled by the interruption of the silence. "Silence. Are you talking about Physician Yan?" Wu Jin spread his arms wide, looking left and then right with admiration. He exclaimed, "Yes! I'm sure we'll get to meet him soon. In a place where both the physician and the residents are so kind. How could a plague even break out? Look at this piles of food and gifts." Li Chong looked at the delicious meal that had been brought out. He reminded him, "All right now. Eat just enough. Remember to return to the rest when we leave. No need for them to feed extra mouths." He obeyed, replying, "Yes, Master." Wu Jin gestured with his hand and looked at him with a questioning gaze. "But what exactly is this plague? Li Chong poured water from a pitcher into a cup, his voice low and troubled. Although there are similar diseases, something still doesn't feel right to me. Perhaps it's something I've never encountered before. Hearing that Li Chong didn't know, he gaped. He was utterly astonished. What could there be a disease in the world that even one of the three great physicians doesn't know? He half closed his eyes, nodding slightly and calmly replying, "There are countless things I don't know. The more you learn, the more you realize you don't know. That's just the way of the world." Wu Jin reached out with both hands to accept the cup of water. "I thought your medical knowledge was boundless, that you knew every illness." Li Chong slowly explained, "How could that be possible? If there were no diseases I didn't know, I wouldn't need to wander the world." He lifted the cup, looking at Li Chong with bewilderment. "Why would you say that? Have you ever been powerless to cure a disease you wanted to?" He stood up and walked away, his deep, thoughtful voice echoing back. "A disease I wanted to cure, yes, there was one. I could cure it now. But back then I was too late." Wu Jin hesitantly repeated Li Chong's words, "too late." He didn't want to dig into the man's past. He turned his head to look out the window. Wu Jin's brows furrowed tightly as the sound of crying reached his ears, the sound of wailing. The cries echoed through the rows of houses, spreading throughout the entire village at the foot of the mountain. Wu Jin's face fell deep in thought. It really needed to be cured. "It's just a shame I don't know the name of the disease." He thought of the boy's illness again with regret. If I had known sooner, I could have cured him. Wu Jin sat helplessly at the table, tormented by guilt. If only I had known. He was somewhat taken aback by what Li Chong said next. "My wife and daughter both died from that disease." He gazed at the doll. He shared his painful memories one by one. One day they both suddenly developed a high fever and red rashes all over their bodies. I rushed to find a physician. I even invited a renowned physician from the next village. Li Chong didn't take his eyes off the doll as he continued his story, but neither of them had a cure. In the end, while I was still frantically searching for someone, my wife and daughter passed away. It all happened within 4 days of the onset of the illness. Wu Jin sat cross-legged, his hands clasped together in sympathy. "My condolences, master." Li Chong, with a hand on his hip, replied sarcastically, "Condolences? No, it's not like that. This isn't meant to be a sad story at all." He raised his cup, speaking cryptically. "The next part will even make you laugh." Li Chong recalled the moment he stood outside the door, looking at the red cloth and the doll. "After losing them, I was tormented and sick with grief for a while. Then I left my hometown. As if possessed, I just drifted aimlessly." He walked away from his familiar home, step by step. Li Chong stood before a sign with the village's name. 10 days later, I arrived at a small village. It was actually only a day's walk, but I was delayed because I wandered around like that young man. A carved wooden lantern dangled from a tree. That village also had a physician. Li Chong sat before an old man, with 2 large front teeth sticking out. I still remember it clearly. A rural physician, with a face like a rat, inspiring no confidence whatsoever. I described my wife and daughter's symptoms, holding on to a sliver of hope. "Do you know what he said?" The disheveled man stared wide-eyed at the old man's words. "Just leave 5 coins, take this medicine, and drink it at the right time. It will surely cure them with no harm done." The space between Li Chong and the buck-toothed old man grew heavy. Back then, my pockets weren't just filled with spare change, but with dozens of taels of pure silver. That was enough silver to marry off my daughter several times over. The doll was illuminated by a faint light. Li Chong smiled faintly under Wu Jin's gaze. "So my wife and daughter died, not because of a lack of money, nor because we met an incompetent physician or lacked medicine. It was simply that this physician knew and that one didn't. That's all. I ask you, is there anything more ridiculous in this world? That's why I became a physician. To gather all the medical knowledge in the world in one place." Li Chong lifted the cup and drained it in one go. 35 years have passed now. I can't even remember the faces of my wife and daughter anymore. Wu Jin fell silent, turning his head sharply towards the window. He cast a sorrowful gaze outside. The sunset blanketed the village nestled at the foot of the massive mountain, only amplifying the restlessness in Wu Jin's heart. Master's laughter. And why does it sound so much like a mournful cry? The next day in the courtyard, he spoke up. "Old man, I'm going to walk around the village. Find the root cause of—" Li Chong immediately agreed. "All right. I'll also take a look around and we'll regroup later." He looked at Wu Jin and reminded him, "If anyone catches you slacking off, you might not make it out alive." He raised his hand reassuringly. "Don't worry, master." A pig looked up. Wu Jin rested his chin in his hand, thoughtfully observing the pigs in the pen. A moment later, he leaned over the well, looking down. Wu Jin went down into a cellar and squatted down to investigate. He pointed his thumb at the house behind him and said, "So this really is Scholar Chong's house." The first place the illness appeared right. Hong Jian looked up and nodded. "Yes, this is the place." A mysterious purple energy appeared. Yin Plague. 2 bodies with opposing polarities of water and fire. One type of malevolent energy makes the body freezing cold. The other type makes the whole body burn with a boiling heat. Though the symptoms differ, both are caused by malevolent energy originating in damp places, dark and foul-smelling. However, from the animal pens to the well and the cellar, there wasn't a trace of malevolent energy anywhere in the village. Wu Jin frowned, concentrating his thoughts. If it's a vicious plague, it must have started at one point and then spread outwards. After thinking for a moment, he turned to Geiji and Hongjian. He asked, "Is it true that Scholar Chong got sick first, and then it spread to the neighboring houses?" He hesitated before replying, "It did spread in order." Jijai pointed his index finger up, describing the pattern of the outbreak. But to be precise, the people on the west side of the village got sick first. And compared to adults, children got sick earlier. Wu Jin felt helpless, thinking the clue was both there and not there. He seriously asked another question. "So, is there any difference between the west and east sides of the village? There must be a reason why the disease started there." Jijai crossed his arms and shared what he had heard. "I once heard that the east side has abundant yang energy, while the west has a lot of yin energy." Wu Jin raised a hand to object. "That's not it. On the road from the west to Juyi, the master and I didn't sense any plague energy at all. Then why did the children get sick first?" He closed his eyes tightly and continued. "Kids just know how to play together, that's all." Gajai suddenly blurted out, "If we're talking about a place where kids gather, there's a small stream on the west side." Wu Jin's eyebrows shot up his face. Grew tense, his hand clenching as he questioned internally, "Water. Could it be from drinking the water? But the east side has a well, and it didn't look murky at all." He asked the old village chief, "Is the eastern well always this dry?" Hongjian replied firmly, "No, only during droughts. It only temporarily runs dry in the spring." Wu Jin, seeming to have found a clue, probed, "So, did the plague outbreak coincide with the well drying up?" The old man, mostly certain, agreed with his idea. It was probably around that time. Wu Jin's face froze. He broke into a cold sweat as he hypothesized, if the eastern well was dry, the whole village would have to use the stream water. That would explain why the residents on the west side and the children who used the stream water first got sick earlier. A clear stream flowed through the forest. Wu Jin squatted down, his hand gently touching the ground. His eyes were fixed on the flowing water. The stream was crystal clear, gentle light filtering through the water's surface, revealing the fine sand at the bottom. He dipped his hand into the water, perplexed. He thought, there's nothing suspicious about it. The water isn't murky and it doesn't have a smell. But given the situation, the only possible conclusion is the stream. Wu Jin's face contorted as he asked himself, to find out the stream's condition. Is that the only way? Jijai and Hongjian stood behind him, watching anxiously. Wu Jin scooped up a mouthful of water with his hand. Then he sat cross-legged, closing his eyes tightly. He raised both hands to feel the spiritual energy. A magical current enveloped Wu Jin. Jijai and Hongjian were bewildered. They looked at each other, confused by his actions. Wu Jin tilted his head back, sensing every organ in his body. A strange red energy emerged from his intestines. Wu Jin's eyes flew open when he realized the poison in his body was the same as the boy's. It's the same malevolent energy, all right. He jumped to his feet, surprising Jijai and Hongjian. Wu Jin smiled brightly, pointing into the distance, and said, I found a clue, let's go. A gentle breeze swept through, making the forest canopy whisper and sway. He, along with Geiji and Hongjian, walked along the stream. The old man was helped across the stream by Geiji. Wu Jin and he, along with Hongjian, panted as they walked. He suddenly stopped, looking up. Wu Jin, startled by a realization, turned and asked, Wait, this smell? Am I the only one who can smell it? Geiji shook his head. No, I've been smelling it for a while now. It's getting stronger and stronger. He looked towards the mist-shrouded mountain in the distance and said, We're getting close. The three of them continued their journey down the path that stretched through the forest. After a while, Wu Jin clenched his fists and stopped. He turned pale, covering his nose and coughing violently, thinking, Even the trees have withered and died. The source of the disease is close. Before him, a toxic miasma swirled around. The group of trees? Wu Jin's group struggled to press onward. His eyes widened, staring, as if he had just discovered something. Wu Jin covered his nose, staring intently at the ground ahead, which was rotting from the toxic gas. He observed the corrupted soil and exclaimed, The ground is rotting away. Wu Jin struggled to plant his feet, walking on the ground and moaning, Oh my God! He stumbled, taking one step at a time. Wu Jin spread his arms to keep his balance. He looked down at the ground. There's something here. His face was tense, beaded with sweat. His brows furrowed and he gritted his teeth, growling, Hidden. Underground. Flash. A faded yellow old-fashioned cabinet appears. An antique wooden cabinet with a white porcelain jar light shining through it, creating a sense of peace. A place where medicinal herbs are stored often holds many deaths. A bowl of medicine is placed amidst a pile of crushed herbs. It could be the death of plants, or it could be the death of animals. But regardless, an apothecary always carries a comforting scent. Never unpleasant. Wu Jin smiled, holding the herbs in his hand. He gazed out the window. I used to love that smell. Then he turned back again. He looked at the bundles of herbs hanging all over the house. Death holds the key to life. A scent that can bring someone back to life. Wu Jin frowned, his hand gripping the wooden stick as he plunged it into the ground. He looked at the dried carcasses of animals in the pit. But here there's only the faint smell of death. Death only begets more. Death. Who? Why? Nearby, Geiji and Hong Jian were also trying to help Wu Jin. He panted, holding the stick. He suggested, let's dig them up and move them away from the stream. Gyujai. He watched Hong Jian descend into the large pit he had just dug. He held up a piece of an animal's body. Master, look at this. Hong Jian surmised. Someone chopped them up and buried them here. Wu Jin thoughtfully observed the contents of the pit. Extremely toxic corpses. Just a whiff is enough to make you sick. A rotting skull infested with centipedes, crawling underground. It doesn't cause immediate death, like poison from plants or the earth. But the culprit clearly understands the specific properties of corpse poison. A poison that makes people die slowly. A tragic scene of a village at the foot of a mountain. Wu Jin's whole body trembled. The scheme coincided with the well running dry. He raised his eyebrows, lips pressed tight, his hand gripping the wooden stick in anger. This is annihilation. Wu Jin spun around when he heard a sound behind him. The sound of heavy footsteps on the ground startled him. Geiji and Hong Jian. Physician Yan, with a knife in one hand and a dirty bag in the other, looked at Wu Jin's group. He pulled down his mask, growling angrily, "You bastards! What are you doing to the medicine field I worked so hard to cultivate?" Hong Jian clenched his fists in fury. He uttered one word, Yan. Physician. Wu Jin looked at the old man in surprise. Physician Yan. His face contorted, his eyes glaring at the physician with fury. He knew exactly what corpse poison could do, and he was intimately familiar with the village's situation. Furthermore, when the plague spread, he collected money. He's the culprit. On the outside, he's a kind person, but on the inside, he's wicked. A demon in human skin unlike any other. He just disguised himself as a gentle physician. The physician, in the form of a pig, greedily drained the village's resources. Who knew that once he revealed his greed, he'd want to swallow the entire village in one go? In one move like that, he dangerously raised his knife. Wu Jin gritted his teeth, his hands gripping the wooden stick, shaking with rage. And he still dares to play dumb after being exposed. I have to kill him. Hong Jian stepped forward. He stood opposite the physician and said in a low voice, "So it was you." The old man held up a goat's head, grinding his teeth and shouting, "You spread the disease and then pretended to cure it." The physician remained calm even after being exposed. He lifted his lips into a vicious grin and confessed, "I was just pretending to be nice. I just wanted to get my cut in the end." Hong Jian growled angrily, "Your cut!" The old man, holding the goat's head, swung it back and roared, "Your cut! Do you have any idea how many people have died?" The physician jumped back as Hong Jian threw it at him. The goat's head broke in two. The old man glared, unwilling to accept it. The physician staggered back a few steps, his eyes still fixed on Hong Jian. Two more armed men appeared in front of him, ready to attack. "Why the hell should I care?" The physician's next words further enraged Wu Jin's group. "The only thing I care about is that you just destroyed my hard work." He pointed his thumb at his own face threateningly. "So you'll pay the price with your own bodies. Whether it's today or another day." The physician's eyes gleamed with a sinister light as he grinned, baring his teeth. "I was planning on throwing your corpses in that pit anyway," he sneered, sweeping his gaze over Hong Jian, who was raising a wooden stick. "Just consider it getting in line early. You ragged beggars." The old man trembled before the two burly men. Hong Jian's face darkened as he roared, "You!" The old man stomped his foot on the ground, cursing, "You animals!" The physician's two henchmen were bewildered. Those two noticed Hong Jian's three-knotted belt. The old man channeled all his energy into the wooden stick, yelling in frustration, "You dare to act and so atrociously when a protector of the beggars sect. The three-knotted beggar Hong Jian is here." Hong Jian's group was somewhat wary. He gaped, thinking in confusion, "Protector." The two burly men spun around to look at the physician. "Protector." The man with his hair in a bun yelled at him, "Hey, Physician Yan, you said it was just a few weaklings. Why is a protector of the beggars sect here?" He stammered evasively, "I don't know either." Hong Jian stomped both feet on the ground. The old man gripped his wooden stick and commanded, "Now you petty thieves, I will count to 10. Hong Jian stood in a fighting stance, declaring loudly, "The only one who needs to die under my staff is Physician Yan. I don't want any more lives lost in this village." The old man's whole body was trembling, but he still spoke with determination. "So choose wisely." 3. Wu Jin watched as Hong Jian counted down one by one. He pressed his lips together and whispered, The three-knotted beggar. Wu Jin broke into a sweat, his lips pursed in thought. Just a loud shout was enough to intimidate the opponent. Gajai was surprised. He moved close behind him and whispered, "Physician, you need to run now." Wu Jin repeated in confusion, "What run?" He stated his opinion decisively. "Run, I'll throw you over the stream. Run as fast as you can." Gigi instructed, "Don't look back. Go back and tell the village what happened." Hong Jian unleashed a magical force that enveloped the two of them. He pleaded urgently, "I'm asking you to bear another heavy responsibility. Please help." Wu Jin turned back, looking at Geiji with endless questions. "But you two are a branch master and a protector. You're supreme-level martial artists. Shouldn't it be easy?" He was stunned. Supreme-level Hong Jian was still counting. "Ah." Wu Jin turned his head to carefully observe the old man's every move. He secretly realized, so that's not it. Gijai glared at Physician Yan's group. "Either way, my master and I still have to fight." He shoved his two henchmen forward and snapped. "It's just two beggars from the beggars sect and a physician. If you don't risk it now, are you planning to take on the whole village later?" 3. Hong Jian's face darkened, his voice dropping. 4. Fragments of memories flooded. Wu Jin's mind like a film. He has resolved to fight to the death. But why? He's just a weak old beggar. Why is he trying so hard? He looked at Geijai and suggested, "What if we all run away together? That damn physician is a true supreme-level master. If we run back to the village," Hong Jian continued, counting evenly. 5. Geijai didn't hesitate any longer, lifting Wu Jin with both hands. He explained helplessly, "We can't protect you and escape at the same time." Wu Jin listened silently to Geijai's words. "Please protect the village with that strange physician." He suddenly remembered a moment from his childhood standing next to Hong Jian. "Practicing martial arts our whole lives begging here. We have never felt ashamed, because of the kindness of the villagers who kept us alive." 4. The old man continued with determination. 6. Geijai recalled the scene of Hong Jian putting an arm around his shoulder and teaching him. "Master once taught me that when the time comes, we must fight for the villagers." 4. The entire group of physicians was wary. 7. He looked at Hong Jian and roared his command. "If you run, your gambling debts won't disappear. Kill him, you only live once." The old man's brows furrowed tightly. The physician's two henchmen also decided to risk it and charged forward. "All right, let's risk it all." At this moment, Geiji gritted his teeth and lifted Wu Jin. His legs dangled in the air. Hong Jian looked up at the two men charging towards him. "Physician Yan!" Gijai summoned all his strength and threw Wu Jin backwards. He fell back, watching Wu Jin fly through the air. "Run." He froze, his eyes fixed on the battle. "Run, what about you two?" The physician's two henchmen viciously swung their weapons at Hong Jian. "Should I help? The enemies don't look that strong." Gijai and Hong Jian joined forces and advanced. Yes, Wu Jin saw his indomitable spirit, and Hong Jian became certain. "If I fight with them, we might just win." Wotan frowned. His fiery gaze was fixed on the group of physicians. Suddenly, a sharp slash cut through the air toward him. The man with the top knot held his sword and charged straight at Wotan. His eyes widened, waiting for the pain to hit. But then Chusan jumped in and tackled the man, helping Wotan successfully get to the other side of the stream. He glanced over at Wotan. Then he turned and ran into the forest. Seeing this, Chusan gave a satisfied smile. Wotan ran deep inside without stopping. "It's not wrong for me to run." He ran with all his might. "I'm just doing what they told me to do." Trusting them, Wotan ran faster and faster, with the thought that he had to relay the news to save Thon Nine Nguyet village. Images of Chusan and Hong Qian lying in the pit with him, along with the animals, flashed in his mind. "Nonsense, I'm running away. Chusan and Hong Qian will both die, their bodies torn to pieces. What can I do? I've just started learning martial arts." Wotan, exhausted, stopped, hands on his thighs, panting heavily, under the faint light filtering through the leaves. "If I were a supreme master, I wouldn't have run away." The image of Lai Trung's back suddenly appeared in his mind. Wotan's face was drenched in sweat, his eyes wide in thought. In the darkness, Chusan and Hong Qian appeared next to Lai Trung. His eyes filled with terror, but Hong Qian chose to stay. Even though he wasn't a supreme master, Wotan hung his head, tormenting himself in the forest. His feet suddenly began to tremble uncontrollably. Then Wotan pressed his lips together and spun around. His eyes burned with determination in the forest. The sound of heavy breathing echoed from Wotan. He sprinted forward with all his might. Wotan's fists clenched, his resolute eyes fixed on the distance. His face was covered in sweat, his breathing ragged. But Wotan's eyes were focused on the light ahead. "I once helped a kid who was being bullied and got called an idiot. Even though I got beaten to a pulp, the feeling of pride was greater than the pain. It was like becoming a martial arts master, daring to stand up against injustice. But now he pursed his lips and prayed silently. I wish this road was a little longer. I wish the battle was already over by the time I get there. His mind was filled with such cowardly thoughts. Wotan continued to dash past the trees, running without stopping. But if I turn my back now, the fierce sounds of battle rang in his ears. Wotan furrowed his brow, mustering the courage to step out of his shell. Then this life will be nothing but running away. He put his hands on his thighs, wearily watching the ongoing battle ahead. The sight of an exhausted Chusan, still tightly gripping a wooden staff, and Hong Qian with his hands clenched into defensive fists. Wotan hid behind a bush, peeking his head out to observe. They're already so badly injured. How can I possibly help? Chusan and Hong Qian were each fighting one person. Both were gasping for air, exhausted but not giving up. Chusan lowered his head slightly, glaring at the man in front of him. The man with the top knot smirked and raised his sword high. Then he lunged straight at Chusan. Seeing this, he stepped back to dodge the blow. Chusan raised his wooden staff to block, the sword shouting loudly, "Akin Nan Lo." Whichever way the top-knotted man attacked, he would immediately and deftly parry it. The man continued to swing his sword at Chusan. His eyes bulged and he gritted his teeth, struggling immensely. Chusan ducked, avoiding a fatal slash from the top-knotted man. Sweat poured from him like rain. The top-knotted man brought his sword back, preparing to strike again. This beggar puts up a good fight. He twirled and spun, aiming the blade at Chusan. Let's see if you can run as good as you... Talk big. The tip of the sword lightly grazed his leg, causing red liquid to spray out. Chusan thrust the wooden staff forward to block the attack. The top-knotted man glared at him fiercely and swung his sword decisively. On the other side, Hong Qian saw Chusan being forced to the ground. He cried out in worry. Chusan. The old man opened his mouth wide, growling a reminder. Snap out of it! Get up! Taking advantage of Hong Qian's distraction, the man with the headband swung an axe across the old man's face. Luckily, Hong Qian dropped down, avoiding the vicious blow. This is no time to worry about others, you stubborn old man. The old man stumbled backward, catching himself with his hands on the ground. The man with the headband clicked his tongue and said mockingly, "What a stubborn bunch. Still struggling when death is at your door." Hong Qian was utterly exhausted, barely able to breathe, but he spoke with determination. "Even if we have to roll around in shit or a pile of corpses, it's still 100 times better than being scum like you." He thumbed towards Chusan, then aimed his axe at Hong Qian and sneered, "Either way, you or your disciple. Your deaths are already sealed. Just give up, old man." The man with the headband on scoffed when he saw the old man sitting on the ground, having lost the will to fight. "Or do you really want to see your disciple chopped up for fertilizer? Being so greedy in old age is truly shameful." Hong Qian glanced at the fallen wooden staff behind him. Then he looked back at the man in front of him. Nearby, Chusan was struggling to fend off the top-knotted man's attacks. Hong Qian clenched his fists, refusing to give up, and struggled to his feet. "Give up!" Like a flash, the old man dove for the wooden staff, roaring, "Not a chance in hell." The man with the headband saw Hong Qian's action and raised his axe, charging forward. He brought the axe back, preparing for a fatal blow. "Die!" The man with the headband stopped the old man from grabbing the staff. He seemed to go berserk, chasing after Hong Qian, hissing repeatedly. "Die!" The old man turned back, observing every move of the man with the headband. Chusan leaned to one side, parrying the top-knotted man's slash. He quickly glanced over at Hong Qian's fight. The old man reached down and grabbed a handful of dirt. At that moment, Chusan swiftly shot out his leg, kicking hard at the top-knotted man's calf. Hong Qian's face was beaded with sweat, his eyes wide with determination. He suddenly remembered a moment when he and a young Chusan sat next to each other watching the sunset. Hong Qian clutched the handful of dirt and whipped his head around. He decisively threw it at the man with the headband. What? Hong Qian threw his whole body at the man. The man with the headband glared, raising his axe high and yelling, "Fine! Finally! You've decided to seek your own death, have you?" Chusan froze when he heard Hong Qian's shout. He turned his head in panic. The image of the axe sinking into Hong Qian's back, sending a spray of red liquid, flashed before Chusan's eyes. The old man's arms were wrapped tightly around the man with the headband, not letting go. He pulled the axe out, causing Hong Qian to scream in agony. Chusan stood frozen at the old man's cry. Now's the chance. The man with the headband gritted his teeth in fury, repeatedly plunging the axe into Hong Qian's back. "Damn it, let go. Let me go." The old man struggled to get the words out, signaling Chusan. Now is the time. Spurts of red liquid poured from Hong Qian's mouth. He emphasized, "To repay your debt." Chusan understood. He raised his wooden staff high and lunged at the man with the headband. Hong Qian, with his last bit of strength, held the man back. The top-knotted man saw this and chased after him. He aimed his sword straight at Chusan. Suddenly, a rock flew from a distance and hit the top-knotted man in the face. Wotan's brow was tightly furrowed, a large rock in his hand poised to throw. The top-knotted man's face swelled up as he fell backward, cursing, "You damn physician's bastard!" Chusan brought the staff down hard on the head of the man with the headband. A fatal blow, Duong Dao Bong Kich. The space of the battle became more suffocating than ever. A moment later, Hong Keen and the man with the headband both went limp, collapsing to the ground. Votan looked at Chusan, who was leaning on his wooden staff. He wanted to say something, but couldn't find the words. Votan heard the voice of the top-knotted man, and turned, "You physician's bastard!" He raised his sword towards Votan and roared, "If you escaped, you should have just stayed alive. Or are you just dying to be killed?" The top-knotted man charged towards where Votan was standing, declaring, "I'll chop you into pieces." His sword began to descend. Votan's face went pale, his eyes wide, waiting for the pain to hit. He froze when he saw the figure of Li Trung, holding a sword blocking in front of him. He turned to look at Votan and asked, "Did you come all this way to find medicine?" Votan called out in surprise, "Old sir." On the rotting soil of the forest floor, Chusan placed Hong Keen's body on his lap, with tears streaming down his face. Li Trung looked pensively at the sorrowful scene. After a moment of observation, he seemed to understand and looked at Votan and spoke. "It seems these guys are the cause of the epidemic, huh?" He immediately denied it. "No, sir." Votan looked at the physician and angrily revealed, "It's the hell physician. He's the real mastermind." In an instant, Li Trung was behind the physician, grabbing his head tightly. He growled, "Is that so?" He shoved the physician forward, making him fall. Li Trung glared at him with rage. He asked in a cold voice, "You're the one who created this plague, aren't you?" "Why?" Votan glared at the physician, gritting his teeth as he explained the reason. "Do you even have to ask? He spread the disease everywhere just for money." The physician clutched his head in fear from Votan's kick and begged, "Please, great hero, please spare me. Spare my life." Li Trung calmly pushed Votan back and continued to question the man. The money was probably just a means to an end. Votan looked at him in surprise and exclaimed, "So what's the real purpose?" "What real purpose, sir?" The physician knelt at Li Trung's feet, clasping his hands, begging and making a deal. "Sir, you seem to know something. Please spare me. If you just let me live, I will offer you a rare elixir, far superior to what the Chuap village has." He trembled and asked, "Have you ever heard of the Hak Tuok Duok?" Votan's eyes were filled with shock. A flower blooming in the darkness appeared. "The Hak Tuok Duok is an elixir that blooms by absorbing yin energy in times of chaos. Compared to the 10,000-year-old snow ginseng, it's a step below, but its fame is no less. Those flowers grow on the dried, withered bodies of the dead, the flower of heroes." The physician pointed into the distance and continued his offer. "Please take it in exchange for my life, great hero." Votan and Li Trung's faces both became tense. He pointed towards a cave, with a faint purple light shining out from it. A striking purple flower appeared in Votan and Li Trung's line of sight. He cried out in disbelief, "This is the real Hak Tuok Duok!" Old Sir Votan approached the physician, raising his fist threateningly. "You were going to offer it for your life anyway, so why cause all this trouble?" Li Trung placed a hand on his shoulder, implying he should calm down. He seemed to know the physician's intentions as he spoke. It wasn't to trade for his life. The physician jumped when he heard Li Trung expose his true purpose. "You know full well that if an ordinary person touches the Hak Tuok Duok, their spiritual energy will be drained and they will die. And you took advantage of that." The physician trembled more and more, knowing that Li Trung had seen through him. The Hak Tuok Duok is fundamentally an elixir nurtured by death. Collecting the corpses was probably for that reason. If all the villagers died, their bodies would also become food for the Hak Tuok Duok. Both you and me as well. He looked over at Chusan, who was still cradling Hong Qian's cold body and crying, and continued, "You were probably just stalling for time. To come up with another scheme, right? Like pretending to harvest and prepare it and then poisoning us in the process." The physician slammed his hands on the ground and lowered his head, touching his face to the ground as he argued. No, the Hak Tuok Duok is extremely difficult to prepare. I intended to prepare it myself and offer it to you truly." Li Trung whipped his head around, looking at him with a sharp gaze. He smirked and praised, "Really, for a mountain physician? Your knowledge is quite extensive." The physician's face paled as he forced a smile in reply. "Just a few trivial tricks." He reached out and plucked the purple flower, speaking nonchalantly. "But what a pity." Li Trung carefully examined it to the physician's shock. "I am not an ordinary person." Sweat poured down the physician's face. He could barely speak. "What if you touch it with your bare hands, then?" As the physician finished his sentence, Li Trung's sword flashed across his head. "You'll really die." His head fell to the cold ground. Li Trung stared intently at the flower in his hand and declared arrogantly, "I'll take care of my own life and death." In the empty forest, a voice suddenly echoed. "Why do these trashy quack doctors keep showing up?" Li Trung exclaimed with some irritation. They learn a little bit of medicine and think they're physicians. They're truly just scum. At this point, Votan carefully approached to ask the old man, "Are you all right? That thing?" He turned around and huffed, "All right. Of course. Do you think I got my reputation by gambling?" Before leaving, Li Trung didn't forget to give instructions. "I'm going to absorb the toxic energy from the corpses and the Hak Tuok Duok, so take Chusan and back away." As Votan moved, he replied obediently, "Yes, sir." However, Votan still seemed lost in thought, constantly looking up at him. Li Trung sat down abruptly and began to channel his energy. Votan's eyes widened in amazement, but he didn't dare make a sound. Streams of energy gradually formed around Li Trung. Votan sensed something and unconsciously looked down at the ground. The purple streams of gas were being rapidly sucked away at a speed visible to the naked eye. He seemed to realize something. He immediately turned his head to watch the toxic gas being drawn away. Votan couldn't believe his eyes. The toxic gas, it's being absorbed. And the power emanating from Li Trung was also growing stronger. He leaned back, using his hand to shield himself, thinking in awe, the toxic energy is terrifying. Those streams of toxic gas swirled around Li Trung, who was sitting there. The toxic gas on the monster's body was sucked dry. Votan happened to be there and witnessed the whole scene. Even from a considerable distance, he could easily feel the pressure from that place. After an unknown amount of time, the toxic streams slowly dissipated. Behind the thick smoke, Li Trung remained seated. Votan was worried and didn't dare approach, asking, "Is it over?" Suddenly, the old man's voice surprised Votan. "Did you see that clearly?" Li Trung held out the flower. "You have to reach this level to be considered channeling a little energy. Here!" He generously offered it to Votan. "Take it." Votan obediently took it. "Yes." As Li Trung handed it over, he explained clearly. "I've absorbed all the toxic energy, so you can use it without fear of side effects. I've refined it with my perfect energy channeling." "Yes, impressive, isn't it?" He reached out to take it, only able to nod repeatedly. "Thank you, sir." The old man proudly added, "You uncovered the plot of that quack doctor. You are worthy." Votan was still confused, not understanding what was happening. Worthy, Li Trung said nothing more, just curled his lips slightly. "I just needed to absorb the poison, that's all." Suddenly, Votan fell into deep thought. He hesitated a little, turning to look at the trembling Chusan. Votan, after careful consideration, returned the gifted item. "I am not worthy." He guiltily explained the whole story. "I just ran away and came back to throw a single rock. I only came back because I was afraid of being called a coward." Li Trung showed no intention of scolding him. "Worthy, you say?" He pointed at someone behind Votan. "So the person Li Trung was referring to was Chusan. Then why is that kid looking at you as if you are worthy?" Li Trung said cheerfully. "Running away and then coming back to face it. It is harder than facing it from the start. Only when you face your duty and accept your mistakes. Can you do it running away? Only those who truly run away are cowards." He had already left, but turned back to add, "You can run as many times as you want. Just come back to where you started." In the final moment, not turning your back on your duty is enough. Votan's eyes widened. It seemed he had learned a valuable lesson. The flower remained in Votan's hand. Li Trung sighed in frustration. "Have I taught you too much of life's essence? Perhaps. It's too profound, you probably can't understand it." He heard a few coughs and immediately turned to check the situation. "Did you just eat that thing?" Votan could only answer truthfully, "Yes." Li Trung asked in shock. "Why did you eat it right now?" But Votan still didn't understand. "What's wrong? Didn't you tell me to eat it?" Votan asked blankly, emphasizing, "You even said there were no side effects." Immediately after, his blood-curdling scream echoed across the blue sky. Along with his cries of agony, Li Trung finally had to sigh in exasperation. "Good grief. You don't even know the proper method, and you dare to swallow an elixir whole. Were you afraid someone would steal it?" Votan could only resign himself to his fate. His body trembled uncontrollably. "You didn't say anything else, so I thought I was supposed to eat it right away." The old man gritted his teeth and scolded him relentlessly. "Didn't you follow what I taught you in the Huyen Vuthan Kong? Stand firm on the ground, breathe, and practice properly. And now you're making things difficult for me like this." Votan was now in a complete panic. "How do I do it? Please tell me again." Li Trung heard him but was too tired to speak. "I thought you were smart, but sometimes you're an absolute idiot." And so on the way, he carefully explained it again. "Channel your internal energy along the Tuk Tai Am Tai Kin meridian. When you walk, your feet must touch the ground completely, slowly. Combine the energy from your lower body and the energy from your lungs. Create an axis connecting the 3 points, then true. Tich Trung and Yo Duong Quan. Those 3 points are the unchanging foundation of the Huyen Vuthan Kong. Everything else is variable. Use the unchanging as your axis, and guide the power contained in the Haktin Duok. I'll say it again, very slowly." After hearing this, Votan confidently declared, "Got it, I'm doing it right." but he was immediately corrected by Li Trung. Don't argue, do it properly. His body then began to change. Sweat poured down his forehead like a stream, and his legs were wobbling as if he were about to fall. After a while, Votan let out a long, relieved sigh, which caught Li Trung's attention. When he walked, the strength in his legs seemed more stable than ever. Votan strode forward with vigor. Li Trung sensed this and was very pleased. He thought to himself, before we reach the village, he should be able to stabilize his energy. He considered another possibility. If he's trained well, Votan was still very new to this body of his. His next words immediately made Li Trung's face darken. This is the terrifying power of the Haktin Duok. He angrily turned back and yelled nonstop. Hey, that was like licking an apple peel, you know. It'll be a long time before you can fully absorb its power. Practice the Huyen Vu Thun Kong whenever you're free. Votan was so scared his face lost all color. Yes, Li Trung, seeing he was healthy, requested. Looks like you're fine. Drag one of them yourself. But as soon as he heard that, Votan immediately felt unwell. My stomach still hurts a lot. And so they walked ahead with Chusan following behind. At that moment, everyone was staring blankly at the people in front of them. Votan was the one who stepped forward to speak to them. He carefully gestured towards Chusan. The plague will now disappear. Drink enough medicine and you'll be on your feet in 3 days. Chusan and Old Man Matoanki have already dealt with the mastermind. Everyone was extremely excited, clapping and cheering. Only Chusan's face was as dark as charcoal. Everyone crowded around Li Trung and Votan to celebrate. But at that moment, the observant old man noticed something strange. Li Trung immediately turned to look. Chusan just bowed his head slightly in respect. Under the bright sunlight, everyone was happily playing together. No one paid any attention to him at all. And just like that, Chusan slowly walked away, lonely and isolated. He even paused for a step, looking up at the corpse. But a second later, he turned and left without looking back. And so from dusk, the sun bathed the entire mountain in the light of sunset. Time passed just like that. It was another new day at that all-too-familiar house. Votan was up early, practicing with a makeshift tree branch. He practiced with intense focus. Every movement was carefully executed by Votan. Suddenly, Votan looked up at the branch, lost in thought. How did the old sir do that? Just as he was distracted, a foot came and kicked Votan straight in the chest. Li Trung kicked him to his knees without hesitation, scolding him relentlessly. What if dust gets in the medicine, huh? And you still want me to teach you swordsmanship? He came to announce, hurry up and pack your things. We have a long way to go. But Votan found it strange. Sir, there are still sick people. Why are we leaving already? In his mind, all he could think about were the beautiful girls. Just stay for 5 more days. It's convenient for monitoring everyone's condition. Besides, I get to be treated like a hero for a few more days. Li Trung quickly brought Votan back to reality. Wake up from the beginning. I never intended to go to Chuap village. I only stopped by because Chusan asked me to. As soon as he heard that, Votan was stunned. Chusan, I haven't seen him since last night. Have you seen him? The old man slowly explained. He's probably taken care of Old Man Matonki's burial. As usual, he'll probably starve to death somewhere. But Votan found that hard to believe. Starve? But he's the hero who saved the whole village. He recalled those images and couldn't help but think. For a beggar and his master who have killed someone, it's not surprising, even if the reason was justified. When a beggar who used to receive alms had beat someone to death, especially a martial arts master, he's no longer just a beggar. Votan hung his head low. The feeling is no longer good, it's become tribute. And so the two of them discussed the matter for a while longer. So what will Chusan do now? He'll have to make that choice himself. Li Trung looked up at the sky and sighed. Killing someone is just like that. When they received the news that they had to leave, everyone came out to see them off. Although Votan was a little reluctant, he still had to leave. And so the two of them walked along the path again. Day after day, they walked at a steady pace. Neither said a word to the other. Suddenly, at that moment, Votan looked up curiously at the scene before him. His eyes widened in surprise. Votan couldn't believe his suspicion. This is a graveyard. Li Trung scanned the area and called out, there it is. Right in front of a grave, there were 2 wooden sticks placed there. Neither said a word to the other. They went to pay their respects to the deceased. They bowed to the person together. But at that moment, Votan looked over. He sensed something strange about Li Trung. The whole scene was steeped in silence. Suddenly, Chusan approached and clasped his hands to them. Chusan, I am greatly indebted to you. May your journey ahead be a safe one. As soon as Votan saw him, he rushed over. You've been here since last night. Haven't you eaten anything? He kindly offered food to the other. Here, eat. Chusan accepted it with immense gratitude. Thank you. Votan curiously asked further. Will you continue to stay in Chuap village? He nodded in confirmation again. I'll stay here for the rest of my life. I live here, and I have nowhere else to go. Chusan even added with a bright, optimistic smile. It's okay. A true beggar is one who survives by any means. Votan still had Lai Trung's words on his mind. Killing someone is just like that. Suddenly, the old man made an offer. Come with me. Chusan was bewildered by this. Go where? Votan enthusiastically grabbed his hand. Where else? I'll take you to a place where you can be a beggar. Without having to be wary. Old man Matonke would have wanted it this way. He cheerfully turned back and asked, The old sir thinks so too, right? But when they looked, Li Trung was already gone. Votan didn't worry much and just dragged Chusan along. Old sir, let's go together. He ran for his life to catch up to Lai Trung. Why did you leave without a word? But when they caught up, they were panting heavily. You walk really fast. And so on the way, they chatted happily together. Anyway, since Chusan is coming along, you know what to do. Focus on practicing the Huyan Vuthan Kong. The kid Votan then made a suggestion. Also, now you can teach me some swordsmanship. Li Trung laughed heartily. I've been waiting for you to say that for a long time. And so on the way, they talked and asked about the journey. But where are we going? Chusan, you're a genius, you know. That brat Votan never asked that question. What genius? It's only natural to ask that. Finally, Votan shouted in frustration. So where is our final destination, sir? The 2 wooden sticks at the grave earlier were named Tomb of the Great Hero Matoan Kihung Kien. Li Trung turned back and gave them the answer. Luoyang. In the middle of the vast, immense forest, Li Trung enthusiastically instructed them again. The sword that stabs straight into the heart, the self-heart sword. It may sound mundane, but it's the swordsmanship closest to the essence. He even performed a few moves to demonstrate. Among them, the most essential techniques are Truok Fong and Trong Xuan Dong Tiem. Chusan and Votan, at his side, also diligently learned these techniques. At that moment, a stream of energy appeared from Lai's attack. Trung turned back and asked the 2 of them, What do you think? Can you do it? They both looked at Lai Trung with disdain. Votan seemed to explode and roared. How can I possibly do that? Do you think I can do it just because you say so? He stepped forward to confront him. Why can't you? I've been teaching you for a whole month. How can you chop down a tree in 1 month? Li Trung, just as angry, immediately retorted. Who said you have to do that? The stance is the stance. Which kid? Chusan remained silent during their conflict. Here, do it like this, sir. No, like this. After an unknown amount of time, they were still practicing. Li Trung suddenly spoke up. Chusan, you try. Votan at his side tried to add, See, he's doing it right. Chusan just followed Lai Trung's movements. Like this, sir. The old man was very pleased. Yes, that's the right stance. Votan next to him did the exact same thing and said confidently, It doesn't look much different. However, a while later, Li Trung was still correcting him. Do it again. Hey, back straight. Your leg too. Chusan diligently followed along at his side. Votan continued to argue. We've only been learning for a month. You're too ambitious. You'll go to the hell of greed for sure. But Li Trung paid no attention to that. Straighten your back. It is straight. You should worry about respecting your elders to avoid going to the hell of ice. Their lives passed by like this. In the morning, they practiced the Bich Tu Truong. And then after that, at night, they could only move using the Tu Van Bo. Not only that, the 2 of them also had other exercises. When the sun set, they spent a month training to have a sparring match with the Crimson Heart Sword Hong Chusan 30 wins in a row. Kakjoy suddenly had a smile on his face. During that entire time, the relationship he observed between these 2, he saw them constantly bickering with each other. If you keep this up, I'm going to lose all respect for you. I'm just going to have to attack. You dare attack me? How is that possible? Very strange. Kakjoy still stood nearby observing. Sometimes it was an incredibly close teacher-student relationship. Li Trung still had to meticulously guide Votan step by step. But right after, they were like an uncle and nephew, teasing each other endlessly. Why are your hands so shaky, so limp? And Kakjoy understood them very well. Although the 2 of them seemed to be joking around, underneath that facade was hidden. A hidden respect and expectation. The eyes of both men shone with an extraordinary determination. But it wouldn't last more than a few seconds before they argued again. But that affection made Kakjoy very envious. Acting like that. How are you ever going to beat Chusan? I'll beat him today, you'll see. It'll be tough to win. I once had a master like that too. He suddenly felt a contagious happiness, watching them like that. Kakjoy again couldn't help but remember the memories he once had. Just like that, after a tiring training session, it was time for a midday break. Please have your evening meal. Old man Chusan is so polite, you see. Yes, please eat to maintain your health in the city. At this moment, the rain was falling incessantly. Kakjoy clasped his hands together to express his gratitude. During this time, I have received a great deal of help. Lai Trung also nodded in agreement. If it's fate, we will meet again. He didn't forget to add, if you want to stay in Chongqing for good, don't forget to change your name. If someone finds out about Juap village, it will be a lot of trouble. For whatever reason, you still killed someone. Kakjoy nodded obediently without any resistance. Just like that, he turned, said goodbye to them, and left. Even though they were very far apart, Kakjoy still waved his hand nonstop, as if a little reluctant to leave. After a while, he disappeared into the crowd of people rushing to take shelter from the rain. Wotan's face now also showed a touch of sadness. He left quietly. Li Trung seemed to guess his mood. You seem sad. Wotan didn't hesitate to admit yes. Because he was the first friend I made since leaving Sichuan. He didn't forget to take this opportunity to poke fun right. The friend that in all your Crimson Heart sword matches, you never won against not even once. You have every right to be sad. It's infuriating. Who knows, maybe you'll never win in this lifetime. But when he screamed, the other person was long gone. The last time I was so close to winning, Wotan didn't have time to say anything and hurriedly chased after him. Old man, you could at least say something. Where are you going? Li Trung didn't bother to explain. Stop talking so much and follow me, kid. After a long while, they arrived at a shop in the city. The man there saw the customers arrive and inquired, borrow the forge, the price is... However, that person immediately continued with disdain, you think you're worthy of watching him work. Li Trung gestured with his hand, introducing, you get a front row seat to watch the world's greatest blacksmith. How about that? Wotan, standing beside them, gave a forced smile, worrying inwardly. Who would accept a deal like that? The old man was silent for a long time, seemingly thinking. After a moment of hesitation, the smith reached an agreement. Let's do it. Wotan couldn't help but feel suspicious, thinking to himself, why did he agree? Li Trung enthusiastically pushed him inside. Since we're borrowing it, let us borrow the materials and firewood, too. The old man basically paid them no mind. While you're at it, forge me a sickle, too. He agreed immediately, without a hint of hesitation. Got it, shopkeeper. Wotan, while lighting the firewood, grumbled incessantly in frustration. Suddenly forging some sword, and for what? To be watched and gawked at. I'm not a monkey performing tricks. Li Trung didn't bother arguing anymore and demanded, stop whining and forge the sickle first. A sly smile suddenly appeared on his lips. From the very beginning, the terms of exchange. Li Trung enthusiastically pushed him inside. Are you trying to skip out on a month's tuition? His face suddenly turned pale. Well, that's true, but... Wotan, a bit flustered, told the truth. I've never forged a sickle before. As soon as he started, flames began to erupt from the top of the chimney. The smith there was also a little worried about them. Have you just lit the fire again these past few days? At least we don't have to worry about the fire virtue lord getting angry. The sound of metal clashing gradually rang out. The sound of the smith's hammer. He was still relaxing, sitting on the porch, enjoying his tea. It matches the sound of the rain, so resonant. It sounds like a jade chime. Even if he's not the best in the world, he'll become a great blacksmith for sure. Suddenly, the old memories of the smith came flooding back. I was like that too when I was young. The old man bowed his head, reminiscing bit by bit. After who knows how long, the smith took the finished product amazed. An exquisitely crafted sickle had been forged. The old man couldn't believe his eyes. This, Wotan politely offered it to the other man with both hands. Sir, this is the first sickle I've ever forged. I don't know if it's any good. Is this worth anything? The old man trembled, not daring to accept it. The first time, then the smith decisively picked up the sickle. The old man held it up to test the feel. Wotan was bewildered by this sudden change in attitude. Sir, right after that, the old man made a perfect cut in front of him. The smith's face now seemed a bit murderous. The old-looking table in the main room, just like that, with just one move from the old man, was brand new. The smith frantically used this new sickle. At this moment, Wotan reacted, slowly realizing a master. Suddenly, the old man vanished somewhere, causing him to look around for him. Wotan hurriedly tried to chase after him. Old man Fong Fong, where are you going? However, Li Trung stood there very calmly and said, don't worry. Just get ready to forge the sword. They'll be here soon. Very quickly, he changed his words. No, they're here. Just as Wotan still didn't understand anything, countless figures appeared behind him. Standing there, he was scared too. His body trembled as he slowly glanced over as if they wanted to eat him. Eat him alive. The smith came forward, holding up the sickle. Young friend, this thing. But the old man's next words shocked him. How did you forge this? Is it that good? They started to pick up their own weapons. How on earth did you do it? It seemed everyone was drooling with desire. Someone was even trembling with excitement. A weapon made by the best blacksmith in Chongqing. Someone even brought a whole log. The smith at this point couldn't contain his excitement. His own. Not a single chip on the sickle blade, yet it cuts through it like tofu. Like this, they rushed towards Wotan like a hungry tiger. That technique. Please teach it to us. Their eyes were filled with anticipation. Anything, just make one for me, a sword. Start with a sword first. No, this one first. The axe should be prioritized, and axe first. He heard them and broke out in a cold sweat. He didn't understand how things had turned out like this. At the critical moment, Lai Trung stood up. He wore a sly smile. As soon as they saw him, they timidly stepped back a few paces. Suddenly, Lai Trung held out his hand. Then he made a very refreshing offer. The entrance fee is 2 taels of silver. The whole crowd fell silent. Then they still wanted to haggle over the price with Lai Trung. 2 taels. By the way, from now on he will be forging a sword. Here's 2 taels, exactly 2 taels right. On a distant road, Kakjoy walked alone. He just kept walking and walking like that. Suddenly, something seemed to attract Kakjoy. He turned his head to look and thought to himself, "This is my master's hometown." Just as master said, everything is big. I wonder where the mulberry field he used to visit is. Just like that under the rain, Kakjoy wore a happy smile. Suddenly, at that moment, he remembered something. The Beggar's Clan disciple. Kakjoy looked at the rope in his hand. That was the thing his master often held in his hand. He clenched it tightly with determination. After a moment, Kakjoy made a decision. Maybe I should go find an acquaintance of my master. The rain was pouring down. Kakjoy confirmed the information. I've heard the story, sect leader. He sincerely expressed his thanks. Please come any time. Hero Hong. The sect leader smiled warmly. Hong concealed all his dark calculations. Disciples of the Beggar's Clan are always welcome. Kakjoy also responded with sincerity. But as soon as he turned away, his face immediately turned cold. Kakjoy, soaked in the rain, mumbled, I heard the Beggar's Clan has been around for a long time, so I came. But not a single person knows my master. Leaving for 25 years, I guess that's to be expected. The Beggar's Clan my master talked about is completely different. I never expected the sect leader to be a member of the Beggar's Clan. Moreover, he recalled the hateful face of the sect leader. To become a disciple of the Beggar's Clan in Chongqing, you have to pay an initiation fee. As long as you try hard, you can earn it. Kakjoy gritted his teeth in anger. Even if it's a righteous sect, you even have to pay money to become a beggar. He continued to walk on alone and desolate. In this street, probably no one knows my master. The rain was still falling heavily with no sign of stopping. Kakjoy followed the side of the road, asking around. Excuse me, do you know someone with the nickname Ma Tuan Ke? But wherever he went, he was chased away. About 25 years ago. In Chongqing, a few people were interested, but there was no clue about the 4-sash disciple of the Beggar's Clan. Kakjoy met a group under the bridge. He immediately gave up. You all probably don't know. He walked away dejectedly. Thank you. Kakjoy cherished the keepsake in his hand. Does really no one know? Suddenly, an old beggar holding his head ran past him. He was just looking for shelter. It's too cold under the bridge. Kakjoy made up his mind. I'll try one last time. He spoke up, not having much hope to begin with. Sir, do you... The old beggar turned around at the sound of his voice, tilting his head in question. Kakjoy asked with a smile. Do you know someone with the nickname Matonka? He's a 4-sash disciple of the Beggar's Clan. He was here about 25 years ago. Suddenly, the man looked like he recognized the name Ma Tuan Ke 4-sash. Is he the one who looks about 10-something years older than me? He jumped up in excitement. Yes, that's him. The old beggar cautiously took a few steps back. The beggar who was clean and often went to the mulberry fields. Kakjoy was ecstatic. Yes, that's the one. But the man then revealed some shocking news. Then you must be mistaken, Ma Tuan Ke. He was only a 1-sash. The rain kept falling. Kakjoy's emotions hit rock bottom once again. Huh? He absolutely could not have been more than a 3-sash. From 3-sash and above, you have to have martial arts. But he never learned any and he was slow. So he didn't have a master either. The old beggar added, that's why he was always rolling around in the mulberry fields becoming Ma Tuan Ke. That's right. When I was about your age, a group of beggars was looking for him. It seems he got into some trouble. I heard he stole a precious item from the royal family and ran away. Downstream, there's an old woman with the surname Long. She probably knows more. Are you going to go ask her? Before he could finish, Kakjoy had already dashed off. The man was startled. Hey, where are you going? The rain poured down heavily. The sky grew darker and darker with thunder rumbling. He cried as he clenched the keepsake. Damn it! The water beside him flowed swiftly. Kakjoy didn't care. He pulled at it with all his might. You piece of... He trembled, trying to undo the knot. You bastard! Kakjoy even wanted to bite the knot off. You damned beggar! You're screwed good at starving, that's 1-sash. Recover from illness, that's 2-sash. He threw it forcefully onto the ground. Kakjoy couldn't accept the situation at all. Reach 15 years old, that's 3-sash. He trembled. No wonder the fist and staff techniques were all nonsense, you. Kakjoy screamed with all his might. Liar, was it all? All lies, you beggar. Lightning struck very close to him. Kakjoy didn't care and just stood there screaming. He swung his arm violently, about to throw away the coil of rope. But facing the swift current, Kakjoy hesitated. He stood silently frozen, unable to throw it away. Kakjoy sat down dejectedly by the water. He curled up and shed tears again. Divine weapon. What guardian spirit? It's nothing. Just knows how to dig and rummage around, damn it. Suddenly, Kak Jioi clenched his fist and plunged it into the water. He squeezed so hard that the veins stood out on his hand. Then Kak Jioi slowly relaxed his grip. He was extremely conflicted, 2 streams of tears flowing down. His lips were pressed tightly together, not wanting to let go. But then Kak Jioi finally managed to release the coil of rope. That day on the beach, full of rain and lightning, he gave up his past. After the rain at the martial arts hall, Votan had just finished training, sweating profusely. "That's all for today." A large crowd cried out in disappointment. "What, that's it?" The old man stepped forward to hold everyone back. "Really, the master needs to rest too." So they had to accept it. All right. I just want to ask one thing. Old sir, about regulating the fire. It was really hard to get this person to leave. The hero is out. Stop whining. He was about to say more. That's not it. He suddenly looked up, his eyes full of surprise. Kak Jioi had returned. His face was haggard, his whole body exhausted. Votan called out loudly, "Chu-san!" He was quickly invited into the house to rest. He was told the story of Ma Tonke. So that's how it was. Votan sat beside him awkwardly, wanting to comfort Kak Jioi. He frowned with worry. "You haven't eaten. I know you're sad, but..." He denied it. "It's okay, Tu Tian shared with me." Votan was surprised. Tu Tian. The kind-hearted little girl offered a bun. "Eat this, you look so hungry." Kak Jioi nodded, saying it was a kid from under the bridge. He frowned and mumbled, "I wasn't planning on eating, but it's hard to refuse food given by another beggar." Suddenly, he slapped Kak Jioi hard on the back. "Chu-san!" Votan stood up straight, scolding him. "You stole that too. You're not a disciple of the Beggars clan anymore. And you're stealing from a little beggar kid." Kak Jioi argued back, "I didn't steal it." He insisted, "Let's go." He, with a face full of question marks, asked blankly, "Go where?" Votan smiled with energy and no small amount of mischief. "Where else to go take a bath and wash off that beggar look, of course." That night, when the moon was high at the tavern, it was extremely luxurious inside. The melodious music blended with lively laughter and conversation. The beautiful woman on the stage was both talented and beautiful. The sound of her zither truly comforted the soul. A table laden with food and the atmosphere here left Kak Jioi momentarily stunned. A loud call rang out next to his ear. "Chu-san!" Votan enthusiastically pulled him along. "Drink up, bottoms up." After finishing the first cup, the two of them paused for a moment, then simultaneously breathed out burning hot fire. The beautiful woman was also startled. She grimaced in annoyance. "These kids are so noisy." He pretended to praise it, "So delicious." Kak Jioi burst out laughing. "Delicious? I thought you were going to throw up." Votan was playing around. "Hey, the reputation of the 3 great physicians of the world? You think you get that from gambling?" He enjoyed it heartily. "This crazy guy. You watch out or I'll teach you a lesson right now." He wasn't afraid and continued. "He's out right now. If you leave food left over, watch out for a punch to the chest." So the two who had no idea how to appreciate alcohol continued. "Let's just drink." The beautiful woman just kept singing. Kak Jioi did all sorts of strange tricks. Votan ate until his cheeks were puffed out and his eyes were wide. He stood by cheering him on. Even the record for stuffing the most buns in your mouth. There's only 2 more to go. At the end of the meal, the party was over. They had finished 4 bottles of wine. Kak Jioi was satisfied. "I can't eat anymore." He, with a full stomach, sat beside him. "Me too." He suddenly worried, "But how are we going to pay?" "I'm just a beggar. I've never paid for anything before." Votan laughed in Kak Jioi's face. "Of course you pay with money. You beggar," he said absent-mindedly. "Oh, right. I wonder how much it is." "I don't have a single coin." He laughed carefree. "Me neither." Kak Jioi was still half awake, half asleep. "Really, you don't have any either?" "We're both just beggars now." Then he slammed the table and stood up yelling, "What, no money? Hey, what are we gonna do? This is the Beggars clan's place." Votan smiled smugly. "So what? I am Lai Trung, one of the 3 great physicians of the world." Kak Jioi was terrified. "Stop joking around, you idiot." He smirked mockingly. "With someone of my stature, there's no need to worry." Votan burst out laughing. "Don't worry." In a flash, somehow he disappeared without a trace. Votan appeared right behind the beautiful woman, pulling a small knife from his sleeve. "Now let's settle the bill." With the crazed eyes of a drunkard, he stared at the blade in his hand. The aura he gave off made those around him shiver. The beautiful woman's face turned pale with fear, her whole body frozen, unable to run. Votan decisively swung the knife down. His actions were extremely decisive, so fast that no one could react in time. Kak Jioi screamed in horror, "Hey, what are you doing?" The surprising thing was, the guests in the restaurant enthusiastically cheered. "That drunk kid is pretty badass." "Keep drinking," the waiter Xiao questioned the guest. He loudly pointed at Votan, who was dancing wildly. "What are you doing?" Xiao's shout seemed to finally wake him from his drunken stupor. "Guest." Votan's eyes were dangerously chilling. He frantically searched. "Hey guards, where are the guards, quick?" He crazily rushed towards Xiaoer pleading, "Please, sir, think of something." While Kak Joy was still dazed, a few people rushed up. The fat man yelled loudly, "Hey, who are you to come here? Get down from there right now. Even if you're drunk, you should know how to be drunk properly." The guest on the upper floor said with boredom, "Just let it be, it's more fun this way." That's right, it's much better than the sound of the pipa. The two guards roared, "What are you doing?" Wotan spun around and swung the wine bottle hard. "What am I doing?" The faces of the people around him changed color. Kak Joy also had no idea what was happening. Before everyone's eyes, an exquisitely carved object appeared. He nonchalantly drank his wine. Wotan mockingly asked them, "I'm just settling the bill. Do you want to stop?" The two guards, their faces pale with fear, stepped back. "No, I'm asking because the music stopped." He quickly changed the subject. "Why don't you continue the performance? We can't spoil the hero's mood." The beautiful woman said resentfully, "The string broke." Yes. All the guests stopped eating, following every move. Below, he continued to skillfully carve. The sharp blade ran along the lines of the wood. Wotan's eyes were extremely focused, barely blinking, and so the tavern had a new performance. Finally, he raised his hand high, then decisively struck down hard with the handle. The excess wood chips flew off. Wotan had completed a breathtakingly beautiful statue. Every detail on it made the craftsman, who would take weeks to carve it, feel ashamed. He declared loudly, "Today I'll pay for the wine with this." Wotan nostalgically recalled the old man once saying, "With your talent, wherever you go in the world, countless people will want to treat you well." Today those words were proven true. Indeed, the effect of the 1,000-hand Guan Yin was truly frightening. Sect leaders flocked to compete for him. "Hero Duong, today please come to my tavern. I have specially prepared a young lamb." Everyone praised him endlessly. He is truly extraordinary. "Hero Duong," Wotan said smugly, "it's just a doodle." Kak Joy tapped the tenant on the shoulder and asked, "What do you think, sect leader?" His jaw dropped. "In just 1 hour, it has become such a masterpiece." Another day, someone brought a towering stack of buns to deliver. "These are meat-filled buns prepared as a deposit." The two of them carried the food away together, sharing it with the beggars under the bridge. He gently stroked the little girl's head. "Enjoy your meal, Tiu Tian." Tiu Tian joyfully accepted. "Thank you, Hero Hong." Kak Joy laughed heartily. "What's there to thank me for?" Wohan sighed in relief. Finally, he's genuinely smiling. The rain was still heavy, but the sky had brightened a little. The two of them were lying around in the inn. He spoke up and asked, "Hey, are we going to the tavern again today?" He groaned. "My head hurts too much, let's not. Let's take a rest today. It's been several days. I don't know how much we've drunk." Wohan looked up. "What, you want to go?" Kak Joy couldn't be bothered to move. "No, just asking. It's raining too hard." He flopped back onto the bed lazily. True. Suddenly a voice called up from downstairs, "Hero Hong Chu-san." "Hero Hong Chu-san?" Both of them curiously peeked down. He was surprised. "To Ba Chin, brother." They rushed downstairs. Kak Joy was shocked. "Tiu Tian is missing." Ba Chin was extremely worried. "Yes, she always tells us before she goes anywhere, and she's timid. So on a rainy day like this, she would never go far. It must be the river pirates Trong Thuong Tai who kidnapped her." Kak Joy was tense. "River pirates, are you sure, brother?" He nodded firmly. 3, Ba Chin began to explain. "Before every now and then a child would go missing. Gradually they figured out the reason. At first everyone thought they were swept away by the water. But many people have seen the river pirates kidnapping children." He clenched his trembling hands. "It's rumored that the evil sect kidnaps children for disrespectful purposes. If Tiu Tian was also kidnapped for that reason, then..." Ba Chin was extremely worried. "If she has already been harmed," Kak Joy reassured him. "Brother Ba Chin, let me investigate." He affirmed with certainty, "I have someone I can ask for help. Please don't worry, just wait a moment." He felt as if a weight had been lifted from his heart. "Thank you, hero. Thank you, thank you, thank you." But when he went to see that person, the answer was like a splash of cold water. "I will report it to my superiors. But please don't expect much." Kak Joy couldn't believe it. "Don't expect much. Since we are disciples of the Beggars clan, of course." He was in a difficult position. "It's true that we should take action. But without evidence of kidnapping, we can't confront the river pirates," the sect leader explained awkwardly. "Moreover, at this time..." He didn't understand. "Time." Kak Joy pressed his lips together tightly in anger. "It's completely different from the last time we met. Because there's no child involved, your attitude has changed. He clearly said that we were welcome any time." The sect leader walked around explaining, "You're an outsider, so you don't know. Every year in the spring during the rainy season, the entire Beggars clan in Chongqing is on edge. Furthermore, the rain this year is even heavier than usual." He pointed out the door. The sect leader pointed out blandly, "Look." He asserted that if it continued to rain for another day or two, the Yangtze River will surely overflow its banks. The sect leader knew very well. If the Yangtze overflows, people will lose their homes and be swept away by the water. Death is also a common occurrence. To reduce the damage, the entire Beggars clan is currently building dikes. There are no spare people to investigate the river pirates. Kak Joy was completely unwilling, but he couldn't say anything. He was also in a very difficult position. In any case, I will report it to my superiors. Kak Joy went back to report the news. Ba Chin questioned resentfully. And you believe that? Believe the words of those who treat us like animals. Just because we're not disciples of the Beggars clan. How can you believe that? Seeing him trembling, he was stunned. Brother Ba Chin. Ba Chin was all too aware of his current situation. It's true that they will build a dike. But for us down here, what does it have to do with us? It's only for the people way up there. Kak Joy stammered, even though he tried to make an excuse. Even so, as martial artists, we must have a sense of righteousness. He couldn't hold back his tears. Those river pirates, the evil demonic sect, are also martial artists. But do they have a sense of righteousness? Ba Chin pointed out the class difference. In the past 10-something years, I have never heard of the Beggars clan fighting with the river pirates. Because of a dead beggar, the Beggars clan has to risk their lives. Just because they changed into new clean clothes, the others couldn't stand to watch anymore and came to comfort him. And they are always worried that their past shame will be exposed. They only care about saving face. The old beggar's words reappeared in Kak Joy's mind. It's time to pay the price. That guy definitely won't exceed 3 sash. He gritted his teeth in anger. Yes, it was all lies, you lowly beggars. I don't need to feel guilty at all. Everyone tried to calm him down. Sit down. Hey, But Chin, you know you shouldn't be taking your anger out on Hero Hong, the only one who is willing to listen to us. The one who stands on our side is Hero Hong. Now let's trust in the Beggars clan and wait patiently. Kak Joy left blankly. This isn't my duty either. Doing this much is already a lot. He decided to give up. My duty was fulfilled in True App Village. Kak Joy mocked himself as he stumbled away. No, even that duty was just the boast of a liar. The person walking past him suddenly stopped. She called out, "Hey, you there, is that you?" The one looking for Maton K. The other person introduced herself. I am Old Lady Long. What is your relationship with that Tong Kien? He became even more furious. Tong Kien, even his name was fake. Kak Joy tried to suppress his annoyed tone. What is it? I heard he stole something and ran away last time. Did you lose some precious item? Mrs. Long frowned doubtfully. Steal, she stated with certainty. That Maton K is not the type to be quick-fingered. As for objects, he didn't steal any. Suddenly, Mrs. Long revealed some earth-shattering news. But he did steal a person once. 2 figures stood in the rain looking at each other in silence. The sound of the rain couldn't hide the astonished tone of Kak Joy's voice. Kidnapped a person? Mrs. Long's words also echoed by the river. Indeed, her face looked even more wrinkled in the rain. That happened about 25 years ago. Do you know about the internal conflict in Chongqing? Between the secular faction and the traditional faction of the Beggars clan, according to Mrs. Long, 2 powerful clan leaders gradually emerged. The current vice-clan leader of the Central Plains main altar, Shichdian Lao Kai, originally belonged to the secular faction, and the vice-clan leader at that time, Liu Son Kai, belonged to the traditional faction. The situation at that time was one of intense conflict. At first glance, it seemed like nothing major, besides the matter of wearing clean or dirty clothes. But the concessions, the minor disputes, eventually accumulated into long-standing resentment. One day a great battle broke out. Her voice involuntarily showed a hint of regret as she recalled the blood-soaked bodies. Then an event where Liu Son Kai died in the chaotic battle. At that time, no one could stop the conflict. After that day, the traditional faction was forced to leave Chongqing. The blue sky returned in Mrs. Long's memory. Hong Keen was holding a child and running away. On that very day, Kak Joy still. Her face was silent, her lips pursed. The moment the young man touches a sword, he can learn the forging techniques of a grandmaster. Though he's never held a hammer, he can forge divine weapons. Even a highly skilled blacksmith is left speechless upon seeing his skills, as if witnessing a forging god. Just yesterday, Woojin was an ordinary kid. He got talked into messing with stuff by a buddy and ate a giant poisonous mushroom. The result was a trip that sent him to the moon. In his haze, Woojin felt like he was Yezi, the one and only god of metallurgy. He spent 25 years forging 5 divine swords, and for that he ascended to the heavens and became a god. While everyone was congratulating him, a small accident sent a cup of wine splashing right in his face. Woojin snapped out of it. In the middle of his high, he suddenly heard a loud shout, "You quack! Do you even know if you're doing acupuncture or just poking holes? It hurts like hell." A wealthy-looking man stormed out of his family's clinic. Xiaozhong quickly explained, "These imperial court guys are so damn picky. Acting all high and mighty with a crappy attitude." He ran inside the house and saw his father sadly holding up a needle. It wasn't that his medical skills were bad, it was because the cheap needle was bent. Suddenly, Woojin heard a strange sound coming from it again. He didn't know what it was. It seemed normal this morning. Could it be because of the high from earlier? Woojin held the needle, his hands trembling with anger. You call this a needle? He walked while carefully observing the two needles, feeling more and more annoyed. For some unknown reason, the crappy goods on the street gave him an even bigger headache. They were a world apart from the high-quality swords crafted by the Grandmaster. Woojin caressed it, feeling a strange sense of bliss. A few girls saw him and thought he was a creep. Woojin seemed to realize something. Could it be because of my dream about Uyezi this morning? That I can see the craftsmanship of a Grandmaster Smith. It felt like all his techniques were on display. Right before my eyes. Driven by curiosity, Woojin walked straight into a smithy to check. He brought the two needles to see Shi Jisheng, the son of the Grandmaster Smith Shi Yizhang. He asked about their quality but got yelled at. What do you know to be lecturing me? He pointed towards a pile of swords. Enlighten me, what are the flaws in those? In a flash, Woojin brought several of the most premium swords before him. Shi Jisheng was stunned. How could he tell? Those were the swords his father had forged. He could only try to brush it off. Shi Jisheng challenged him again. If you're so good, do it yourself. That was all Woojin was waiting for. He moved like lightning, throwing wood and fanning the flames. Although relying only on knowledge from his dream, he wanted to give it a try. Every strike of the hammer came down, both slow and fast. He was so skillful that even Shi Jisheng was startled. It was as if he had been forging his entire life. His skill is no less than my father's. In that instant, it was as if he could see Uyezi himself forging. Is this natural talent? More I want to witness it all. Suddenly, Woojin stopped and said, this is just the warm-up. After that, he personally created a superb set of needles for his old man to practice with. From then on, even the high officials who came to his clinic were satisfied, praising him endlessly. Some people finished their acupuncture and felt like they hadn't been poked at all. It's comfortable with absolutely no pain. It's truly miraculous. Just like that word of his family's clinic spread far and wide. It gradually became the most famous in the city. Every day, large crowds came for acupuncture, jostling for a place in line. Suddenly, an arrogant person cut the line. The sound of a scuffle made him run out curiously. He saw only a swordsman exuding an aura of danger, pointing his blade straight at the other person. The old man's movements were as fast as lightning. If you want to know my name, I am... Somehow, sword strokes were already deeply carved into the other person's chest, spelling the name Guai Yi. His technique was just enough to cut the skin without causing danger. Woojin realized the old man was a great master. The name Guai Yi sounded a little familiar. When he remembered, his face instantly filled with panic. He was the medical court murderer, an extremely dangerous man. This was a great master who roamed the martial world, one of the 3 great physicians of the realm, an eccentric, who used his medical skills and the blade in his hand to decide fates. Right now, the lives of people, whether men or women, were ending one by one. He judged life and death without distinguishing between good and evil. Moreover, he was a murderer who had slaughtered dozens of innocent physicians across the Central Plains. This scene terrified Woojin to his core. His eyes widened as he muttered to himself, "This is bad. Father." Then Woojin looked intently at Li Chong's back. He let out a loud shout. Kneeling on the brick ground, Woojin frowned in anger, and then shouted, "Over there is my father's clinic." He was extremely worried, and quickly reached out, wanting to dash straight ahead. Suddenly, Jensong placed a hand on Woojin's shoulder, stopping him in his tracks. Woojin was stunned. He turned his head to look behind him, and saw Jensong speaking. "Woojin." He clenched his teeth, suppressing the rage within him. "You can't fight him, Jensong, a martial master of the Qingcheng sect." Hearing this, Woojin became even more confused. He waved his hands frantically in front of Jensong. "Master, why do you say we can't fight him? What if it were the branch master? He could stop him, right?" Beads of sweat formed on Jensong's forehead. He closed his eyes, conflicted. "Even my master couldn't stop Guai Yi." Woojin hesitated, interrupting Jensong. But he's evil Guai Yi." Seeing this, he could only shake his head helplessly. Even my master back then, and had his life saved by Guai Yi, the branch master of the Qingcheng sect. Woojin's face was filled with astonishment. He stared wide-eyed as he thought of the branch master's faint image. His life was saved by Guai Yi. Immediately, Woojin collapsed, kneeling beside Jensong. He hung his head dejectedly. A choked sob escaped his throat. Jensong silently patted his hand, comforting Woojin. "Father." His hand gently touched Woojin's shoulder. He spoke. "If it's just because of his bad reputation, don't worry too much." Jensong spoke frankly, as he faced the bright red door. "The Guai Yi I met was indeed eccentric, but he is absolutely not a cruel man." Suddenly, Li Chong swung his arm, pushing the 2 doors open. They flew wide open. Li Chong strode in confidently. He smiled, his eyes full of determination. Wujin, however, stared intently at Li Chong's sword, unable to look away. He was extremely excited when he saw that the sleeve of Li Chong was not stained. Wujin whispered softly, "The sleeve is still clean." Only then did Wujin let out a long sigh of relief. He closed his eyes in relief. Thank goodness. Suddenly, Li Chong spoke. At the same time, he placed a hand heavily on Wujin's shoulder. "Hey!" A mysterious smile appeared on Li Chong's face. "I hear you have a good doctor who's also a blacksmith around here, is that right?" Li Chong leaned in close to Wujin's ear and inquired, "You know him, don't you?" Hearing this, his whole body trembled. He obediently answered him. "Yes, of course I do." Li Chong seemed quite satisfied. He patted Wujin's shoulder and ordered, "Is that so? Then you lead the way." Wujin glanced over at Li Chong, then quickly obeyed. Yes. His eyes were locked on the old sword hilt that the man wore at his side. Sweat covered Wujin's face. He tried to suppress the fear inside him. Wujin jumped slightly as soon as he heard Li Chong's voice. "Ring out, hey!" He turned his head to look to the side. Then Li Chong gave a somewhat creepy smile. "Why haven't you left yet? I'm busy." This scene made Wujin even more flustered. He clenched his teeth and stammered, "Yes." Smoke rose from the chimney of the wooden building, a thick black smoke. "Yes." At the same time, Li Chong raised an eyebrow. He pointed forward with a look of astonishment. "Are you saying it wasn't your father? But you who made it?" Wujin clasped his hands together. He smiled obediently and nodded. "Yes." Hearing that made Li Chong burst out laughing. Delighted, he threw his head back and exclaimed, "Of course. The weirdest things in the world all gather in Sichuan." Spit flew from his mouth. Li Chong didn't seem to care at all. "Now a doctor's son is taking up metalworking." The muscular young man standing next to Wujin curiously asked, "Who is he?" Wujin quickly covered his mouth and explained, "He's someone from the martial world." Meanwhile, Li Chong was laughing so hard he was crying. He raised a hand to wipe a tear from the corner of his eye. "Who cares what anyone does? It's been a long time since I've had such a good laugh. You're Tang Wujin. Right, make me 30 needles. Then Li Chong held out a glittering piece of gold, dazzling both Wujin and the person next to him. "Payment will be in this." Both of them were extremely surprised, staring wide-eyed at the piece of gold in his hand. Li Chong tossed the gold ingot. Wujin immediately caught it with both hands. At the same time, he bowed his head gratefully and exclaimed, "Thank you, my lord. Please stay and have a meal. I will finish before sunset." Hearing this, Li Chong was somewhat surprised. He frowned slightly. Li Chong's voice suddenly rang out, "Before the sun sets." "Today, Tang Wujin?" Quickly nodded. "Yes." This made him feel even more incredulous, and he asked again, "Not a few months from now?" "But today," Wujin still replied calmly. "That's right." Hearing that, he tilted his head to size him up. Even a renowned master smith would take several months. Holding the piece of gold, Wujin beamed. His eyes seemed glued to the gold piece. "I can do it today." Li Chong frowned in annoyance. He showed clear disgust and contempt on his face. "That material isn't ordinary, and it's not something you make in advance. Yet he dares to promise it'll be done in a day. This kid must be lying because he's greedy for the gold." Wujin was still lost in the moment, holding the glittering piece of gold. "I'll start on it now. Your needles will be superior to my father's, and more exquisite." Next, he clenched his fist confidently. Wujin used a serious tone. "Please don't worry, old sir. I will definitely succeed." The muscular young man standing nearby pointed at him and praised, "Yes, he really can do it." The atmosphere between the three of them became quiet. Li Chong watched the two of them intently. Suddenly, he flung his purple cloak, causing Wujin to stare in stunned silence. The sword on his back seemed to radiate an invisible pressure, terrifying everyone. A few drops of sweat ran down Wujin's cheeks. His eyes widened as he thought to himself, "I was so busy staring at the gold I almost forgot about the blade." Just as he was trembling with fear, Li Chong nonchalantly sat down in a chair. He gave Wujin a warning look, along with a dangerous smile. "Give it a try. If you can't do it, you'll have to answer to me." Wujin's piercing scream seemed to fly higher than the smoke from the chimney. "Yes." Suddenly, sparks shot out from inside the chimney. The flickering flames danced around the dry firewood. Meanwhile, Li Chong silently observed Wujin and his friend beside him working diligently. A thought flashed through his mind as he remembered the perfect acupuncture needles. You have to draw hundreds of steel threads, file each one, then select the ones that aren't warped. Only then is the most difficult part finished. In front of Li Chong was the sight of Wujin, raising a hammer high to make the needles. The needles of the Tang clan? I can't possibly be made by luck. Let me see for myself. His eyes were locked on Wujin's powerful hammer-wielding arm. But this guy is a doctor. So how are his muscles so solid could it be? Suddenly a loud noise rang out, grabbing Li Chong's attention. The black smoke billowed higher and higher, accompanied by the sound of forging. Wujin gripped the hammer tightly in his palm, then swung it high. Li Chong was startled. He stared intently at the act of using the hammer to shape the metal by Wujin. Surprise flickered in his eyes. Wujin's muscles rippled, especially as he used his strength to grind the hard piece of metal. The hammer struck the piece of metal that was heated red hot. Then Wujin used tongs to fold it into two pieces. Next, he continuously used the hammer to forge it thinner. Wujin forcefully threw the piece of metal, while simultaneously swinging the hammer high with force. This scene was clearly reflected in Li Chong's pupils. Wujin's calm voice rang out, while the chimney was still hard at work. "Sorry to have kept you waiting." Despite the sweat pouring down his face, he still smiled happily. "Here are the needles you ordered." Faced with Li Chong's excited expression, Wujin was even more surprised. He clutched the gold ingot tightly. "What, you want me to become your disciple?" Wujin quickly backed away. He cautiously observed him. Then he asked, "Why me?" Li Chong explained simply, "Is there any other reason? I can see you're not the type to just rot away in a clinic." He furrowed his brows tightly. At the same time, Li Chong forced a savage, threatening smile. "So you don't want to?" Hearing this, Wujin avoided his gaze. He was so flustered that he stammered. "No, it's not that I don't want to. It's just—" Wujin rested his chin on his hand, thinking. He bowed his head in contemplation, then spoke his mind. "I'm also getting used to being a blacksmith. You say you'll take me as a disciple. But what can I learn from you?" This question seemed to amuse Li Chong. He smirked and replied, "You ask what you can learn?" Immediately, Li Chong quickly reached for the sword hilt at his side. At the same time, a flash of light appeared between his two fingers. To Wujin's surprise, Li Chong stood calmly and answered, "I can teach you two things." Wujin crossed his arms and muttered softly, "What is it?" "White smoke from—" The furnace rose up still with traces of moisture on it. The muscular young man at that moment was horrified when he saw 3 acupuncture needles stuck in his shoulder. Since when were the needles? Wujin was terrified when he saw the surrounding tables and chairs, smashed to pieces. Then he turned to look at the man beside him. "Martial arts and medicine." Li Chong smirked smugly. He raised an eyebrow and extended an invitation. "So you want to learn?" Hearing this, Wujin pursed his lips to control his emotions. Thoughts flashed through his mind. The disciple of a supreme master, and also one of the 3 great physicians in the world. It seemed as if Wujin saw the magnificent scenery of a grand city, and he was standing before its gate. Isn't this an opportunity to learn both martial arts and medicine? Moreover, despite his bad reputation, if I become Guai Yi's disciple, the Qing Cheng sect wouldn't dare to look down on our clinic anymore. However, his voice filled with many questions suddenly rang out. "Why is the old sir giving me this opportunity?" Li Chong replied calmly. "Traveling with a blacksmith, who's quick and skillful, would be very convenient." Wujin flinched and glanced at him nervously. And for that reason, seeing this, Li Chong put an arm around his shoulder and proposed, "In return, I will teach you martial arts and medicine." "Isn't that a good deal?" Wujin's face turned pale. He was sweating but maintained a polite demeanor. "This relationship isn't simply master and disciple, it's just a contract." Li Chong casually put his arm around his shoulder. "A contract is a contract. What's the difference?" Suddenly he gestured forward. At the same time he smiled and asked, "A patient possessed by an evil aura, with reversed chi and blood flow, a body that's cold all over, and trembling limbs, what should be done? How would you treat it?" Hearing this, Wujin immediately stood up straight. He answered seriously, "First clear the dampness, then give them a decoction of poria and licorice." Li Chong was very pleased and nodded repeatedly. "Good, you pass." Then he moved to stand shoulder to shoulder with Wujin again, and chatted amiably. "Someone who has memorized the treatise on cold damage and the inner canon is qualified to learn martial arts." Wujin was timid but still managed a forced smile. "What does that have to do with anything?" He then spoke up. "Do you think martial arts only require strength?" Wujin's face was filled with astonishment upon hearing Li Chong's words. He had just uttered, "Try teaching a fool and you'll see." At the same time, he used 2 fingers to bring an acupuncture needle close to Wujin. "Even if you serve up the true teachings on a golden platter, he wouldn't recognize it. Those people just wave their arms around meaninglessly. In the end, they're just mediocre." Wujin muttered to himself, "Mediocre." Li Chong opened his palm and explained patiently, "Like this set of needles, how can an ordinary person understand its subtlety?" Suddenly, Wujin stared intently at Li Chong. He hesitantly called out, "So old, sir." His voice carried a mix of nervousness and determination. "Can I become a first-rate master?" Li Chong was somewhat surprised to hear his words. He repeated again, "First-rate." Then Wujin tilted his head and walked out the door. Li Chong's voice still echoed in his ears. "A good wine needs no bush. You should understand what I mean." He clenched his hand into a fist. Wujin gritted his teeth, enunciating each word. "At the very least, it means—" His face was full of determination. Wujin left the building step by step, A spark of hope seemed to flash in his eyes. Wujin laughed gleefully. I must reach the absolute pinnacle. He immediately threw a punch into the air. Next, Wujin spun around and delivered a high kick. Shouting, he performed various martial arts stances. In absolute excitement. Suddenly, Wujin's ankle lost balance and twisted to the side. He then tumbled to the ground. Even so, Wujin still laughed happily. Suddenly, his father walked up right beside him. Wujin quickly stood up. At the same time, he obediently bowed his head to greet his father. I've returned late. A smile remained on his face as he stood before him. Suddenly, Wujin's father placed a trembling hand on Wujin's shoulder. This made him extremely worried, and he quickly supported his arm. Father, are you okay? He looked up, revealing eyes filled with tears. Wujin's father gritted his teeth and stammered. I heard you were leaving with Guai Yi. I was afraid something bad had happened. His body trembled due to old age. When he came to the clinic, I just thought he was a curious martial artist. Are you still safe? Wujin smiled and explained to his father, yes, he's not as scary as the rumors say. With Wujin's help, the old man walked into the house with him. That's good. Jen Song said so too. It's good that you're okay. But why did you take him to the smithy for so long? Wujin replied in a low voice. The thing is... As soon as Wujin started speaking, his father was already lost in thought. He wants to take you as his disciple, and gave you until tomorrow to decide. A bead of sweat rolled down Wujin's cheek. He worriedly turned his head to observe him. Guai Yi is surely not an empty title. To suddenly want to form a master-disciple bond, Wujin saw that his father's body was trembling more and more violently. Worried, he spoke up, Father. His hand stopped in midair. Wujin forced a smile and looked at him, standing silently. Why did you suddenly stop talking? Suddenly, he quickly left Wujin behind and ran straight into the house. Wujin panicked and reached out to grab him. Father! A moment later, he returned and stopped in front of Wujin. In Wujin's father's hands were silver ingots, glittering brightly, wrapped in white cloth. Wujin took the silver. He stared at them in a daze, then looked up and asked him, Why are you giving me so many silver ingots? Wujin's father simply instructed him. You should be on your way. Wujin was momentarily stunned. He widened his eyes and hesitantly asked, Yes, go. But father, the house is short-handed right now. Then he sighed and explained dejectedly, Besides, he has a reputation as Guai Yi. It might just be a temporary joke. Suddenly, he reached out towards Wujin. He muttered, being short-handed doesn't matter. Next, Wujin's father placed his hands on Wujin's shoulders. He brought his face close to his and growled, You can go. But only at this moment. Wujin. Hearing this, Wujin was extremely grateful and opened his round eyes wide. It was as if he once again saw the ancient tree right in front of him. Father remained still like an ancient tree. The wind gently blew through Wujin's hair. He silently observed everything. But from your words, I've had a revelation. The sight of many butterflies flying around the ancient tree suddenly appeared before Wujin's eyes. That my father was also once a young man. Wujin closed his eyes tightly, sitting on the lush green grass, feeling the spiritual energy flowing into his body. It's been exactly 2 days since I started learning martial arts, and I've successfully circulated the small heavenly cycle. For the first time, my whole body clearly feels every acupoint. 3 days. 4 days have passed. The internal energy is weak, but it's clearly accumulating bit by bit. Day by day, his hair was gently lifted by the magical energy. Wujin slowly opened his eyes after integrating the spiritual energy into his body. This feeling, how should I put it? I think I've gotten stronger. No, I've taken another step forward. He sat under the tree, his body enveloped in magic, muttering to himself, Only now can I leave. Only now. A sense of gratitude welled up in Wujin's heart. Thank you, Father. A chestnut was thrown down forcefully by Li Chong, carrying a question. What are you already missing home? He didn't notice the chestnut bouncing off his head, but looked up, meeting Li Chong's gaze and replying, No, old sir. He sat in the tree, hands on his thighs, watching Wujin intently. He jumped to his feet, clenching his fists and sharing excitedly. Today I feel my internal energy has increased even more than yesterday. Hearing this, Li Chong jumped down to face him. He praised him. Good, this is interesting. Wujin couldn't hide his excitement and asked, So just as you said, old sir, I do have a talent for this, right? He lifted his lips into a smile, his eyes darting too. Evaluate him. Talent is one thing, but your speed of accumulating internal energy is only average. Wujin grinned, flashing a bright smile, and threw a punch to show off his achievement. Normally, it takes an ordinary person 10 days to complete the small heavenly cycle, but I did it in just a few days, didn't I? His body was full of energy. He thought positively about his dreams. It must be because of the dream about Uyezi. That's how I was gifted with some martial arts talent. Li Chong wondered in confusion. Gifted with talent. He picked up a sword and threw it to Wujin. Startled, he opened his eyes wide and caught the sword in his hands. Then Li Chong went to get a wooden stick and held it up. He smiled and pointed the end of the stick at Wu Jin, proposing, "If you're so confident, try swinging your sword. I'll give you some pointers. If you can just cut a piece of my robe, I'll carry you out of Sichuan on my back." Li Chong's face was full of pride as he looked at him. Wu Jin drew the sword from its steel sheath. Its reflection shone on his pale face as he stammered, "Really?" He was somewhat lacking in confidence when it came to using a real sword. He uttered confusedly, "But this is a real sword, it's so sharp. If I get hit once, I'll die." Wu Jin, sweating on his pale face, objected. "No way, how can I—" He suddenly imagined himself wielding the sword, skillfully attacking. "But I've been improving for 10 days now. Maybe—" Wu Jin's eyes widened as a thought flashed through his head. "Maybe I can land a surprise hit while he's off guard." His eyes lit up. While Li Chong was turned away cleaning his ear, he gripped his sword and charged. He still hadn't made a move. He just casually blew on his finger. "A sneak attack, huh?" Li Chong stomped his foot hard on the grassy ground. Immediately, a fierce magical energy erupted. "Getting so confident after only 10 days, are you?" Wu Jin's eyes narrowed, full of determination, as he roared, "Attack!" Only then did he nonchalantly turn around and raise the wooden stick in his hand. Wu Jin's sharp sword met Li Chong's solid wooden stick. He gritted his teeth, his hand tightening on the sword. He put all his strength into the attack, his heart filled with confusion. "I'm striking wood with a sword, so why does it feel like hitting steel?" It didn't even leave a scratch. Li Chong looked at Wu Jin's expression and ordered, "Clench your teeth." He stared wide-eyed in confusion, repeating, "Clench my teeth." He suddenly curled his lips, a dangerous smile spreading across his face as he channeled spiritual energy into the wooden stick. Wu Jin's eyes widened as he felt the source of the magic inside the wooden stick. "This is the void flow chi." He raised his eyebrows, clenching his teeth and guessing, "Like the water flow chi." "No." Beads of sweat streamed down Wu Jin's face. He strained against Li Chong's strength. "It's many times stronger." Before long, he had sent Wu Jin flying backward. In the middle of the forest, a thick plume of smoke rose violently. He propped himself up on the grass and threw up after the fight. Li Chong raised the wooden stick high, looking at Wu Jin and asking, "How was it? Was your first taste of internal energy fun?" He raised a hand to wipe his mouth, glancing over at him. "This is—" Wu Jin's face turned pale, his eyes narrowing as he cried out in frustration, "This is ridiculous. Isn't whoever has the most internal energy the strongest?" Li Chong burst out laughing, somewhat agreeing with him. "You're partly right to think that." Li Chong rested the wooden stick on his shoulder, looking down at Wu Jin and explaining a little. "I don't have a surplus of internal energy myself, so I still avoid direct clashes of power. But martial arts aren't that simple, and why are you in such a hurry? After all, you're just a physician," he asked with suspicion. "Or is there someone you want to punish?" Wu Jin stood up dejectedly and shared his feelings. "You said you would train me to be a supreme master, but based on this amount of internal energy, it will be difficult to achieve in this lifetime." Hearing that, Li Chong, without hesitation, used the wooden stick to hit him hard on the head. He pointed the stick straight at Wu Jin's face and lectured him seriously. "Even if your internal energy is low, and your techniques aren't flashy, there are still countless paths to becoming a top master. When you received my internal energy just now, you also tried to channel your internal chi into the sword to defend, then pulled back right." Seeing him stunned, Li Chong added, "That's also one way to go, so how about we try again? This time I won't use my internal energy." Chusan charged forward to join forces with Votan. He brazenly rushed in, shouting, "I'm here!" Only Votan felt terrified for him. "This guy is insane. Does he have no fear?" But the staff couldn't seem to hit him. Chusan even left the back of his neck wide open. From a distance, Votan kept speculating. "No. I can't actually see his moves. This bastard—" The man's spin of his blade made him realize. "He's toying with us." Votan suddenly thought of the relationship between a big cat and a small mouse. That's right, to him we're just toys. Like a mouse in a cat's paws. However, he still carried the powerful demeanor of Li Trung. But his enemy is a mouse raised by a tiger. No matter what, I will find a way to deal with this. Votan's eyebrows knitted together, so close they were almost touching. If there's no way, I'll make my own. And if that doesn't work, I'll do it even if I have to bite and tear. When Chusan was knocked back, Votan advanced. Votan couldn't help but grimace, hurriedly blocking every attack. The man gained momentum and leaped high. Even though Votan was distracted, he noticed something else. With the Song Qian assassins, they only knew how to slash horizontally and vertically. No thrusts. Perhaps because unlike swords, blades are hard to slash upwards with. Even if it's just a small difference, after a horizontal slash switching to a vertical one, takes them a little extra time. His brow had been furrowed for a while from overthinking. I have to bait his arm into a high swing, then aim for his body. But before he could ponder any longer, Chusan took the opportunity to jump in with Bongdo La Qian, ancestral footwork. Those shouts reached Votan's ears, only making him more frustrated. Give it a rest. Stop shouting, move names, none of them are hitting. You just keep getting countered. Wotan looked at the man with a different perspective. This guy is blocking every single one of my moves. He saw Chusan taking heavy blows and wanted to charge in. The two of them continuously took turns rushing in to attack him. Chusan was getting punched senseless. That sight made the motivation within Wotan boil over. At this rate, neither I nor Chusan can last much longer. With that thought, he began to bring his sword forward. The man wasn't the type to stand still and take it. He charged forward. Fortunately, Wotan managed to dodge a blow. I have to find a way to make him reveal an opening. Suddenly, the man's face became a blur amidst the sword strikes. Over here, Wotan was suddenly almost hit by a palm strike. The man arrogantly showed off. Are you plotting something? All right, I'll show you an opening. When Wotan's plan was exposed, it was also the moment he closed in on the man's blade. He realized it. The two weapons clashed, sending sparks flying. Wotan's strength wasn't enough, and he was quickly pushed back. As soon as he looked up, Wotan received a shock. Dao Fap Fong Sa. The figure slid quickly across the ground, leaving only a trail of dust. In a flash, he was directly in front of Chusan. Everything happened so fast that even Wotan was stunned. But what made that feeling explode was the smirk on Chusan's face. Damn it, is that guy smiling? Chusan was still gaining momentum from above to bring down a heavy blow. Now his hand seemed to be infused with power, burning hot. But right after the staff had nothing to connect with. A feint. Chusan charged in bare-handed before the man's eyes. It was then that the man's eyes widened in recognition. Matoanka. Even Wotan broke into a happy smile. Matoanka. However, the man was only surprised for a split second. Then he gave Chusan a powerful kick. The sudden attack made Chusan's nose bleed. But he recovered quickly and gave the man a cold stare. Then the man's shin took a punch. As Chusan held the man's arm tight, Wotan charged forward. That leader was even more excited than before. So it's that street corner beggar. This is great. He didn't bother, being gentle, and swung his arm back with a loud roar. Come on, all of you, come at me. But that very act made Wotan's mind race. All of us. Wotan's feet bent slightly to gain momentum. That's the opening Chusan risked his life to create. He held his sword tightly with strong determination. Even if I have to die, I will charge in, you damn beggar. Wotan exploited the gap at the man's arm and slipped through. His gaze became even sharper. This is all thanks to you, Hongkat-ka. As if understanding Wotan's intention, Chusan coordinated by pulling the man's arm down. Wotan's sword was quickly at the man's neck, creating a splash of red. Chapter 16. The sword in Wotan's hand sent a spurt of blood flying. The leader's head immediately flew in a circle. Chusan, seeing the scene, couldn't suppress a joyful smile. The men behind who witnessed this scene immediately started gossiping. What, he's dead? Should we run? Only the new leader remained calm, looking at the two irreconcilable enemies. He quickly shouted to urge the soldiers behind him. Get a grip. So what if the damn leader is dead? Are you going to let those guys steal all the treasure? They're exhausted too. Wotan bit his lip and glared at him with distaste. This guy is annoyingly sharp. But without letting Wotan recover, the man signaled with his hand. Everyone attack! But he didn't know Wotan had already made up his mind long ago. Even if I'm at my limit, I will fight to my last breath. Meanwhile, Chusan was fumbling with the medicine box in his hands. Before Wotan could advance, Chusan had needles ready in his hand and charged forward. Chusan's hands clenched the needles as his voice rang out. The art of... Then he swung his arm forcefully, with a resounding shout, 4,000 needles. Hearing this, Wotan felt a pang of annoyance in his heart. What? Just because you accidentally guessed the name of a fake move once, now you're shouting out a move that doesn't even exist. Wotan's eyes followed the continuously flying sharp needles. It has nothing to do with what I'm seeing. When they flew and stuck into the pirates, the result was even more disappointing. And it seems to be completely useless. When he turned to see Chusan smirking, Wotan really wanted to curse. What's with that smug look on his face, that idiot? But a groan attracted his attention. The men hit by the needles fell one by one, struggling. It was only then that Wotan realized. Did he think luck was enough? But he was startled by his own thoughts. But who killed these men? Seeing the two men on the ground foaming at the mouth, their comrade shouted loudly. You bastard! What did you just do? The leader seemed a bit wary after witnessing everything. A secret weapon. Wotan was just waiting for this line and played along, intimidating him. That's right, a secret weapon. As you can see, it's a poison that kills instantly. With a single scratch. Even if it was just luck. I can't miss this opportunity. His powerful words quickly made the other men cowardly retreat. Just touch me, if you dare. I'll make sure at least half of you end up like them. In the middle of his speech, Wotan paid special attention to the leader. Or do you want to stop here? He stood up straight, questioning majestically. Like you said, What does it matter if he's dead? The treasure is what's valuable, right? Wotan revealed his true purpose. But we didn't come for the treasure. We came to rescue the child you kidnapped. Hearing this, the man's expression still didn't change. Don't tell me it's those beggar kids. The two of them just nodded in response. The leader felt bewildered by these words. You don't care about the treasure, and you did all this just for those beggars. Why should we believe that? But Wotan calmly held out his sword. If you don't believe me, then don't. But remember, the consequence will be death. With that, he turned to leave, but didn't forget to add, if you understand, then let's go our separate ways. The shadows of Wotan and Chusan gradually moved deeper into the cave. Even so, the threat still echoed in the ears of the men outside. I'll kill anyone who follows. Choose wisely. The leader was a bit curious and kept watching them. Suddenly, some force made everyone look towards the path next to them. The men fought to run first, unaware that their two opponents were scared and hiding. Hey, don't push, get out of the way. I'm going first, you bastard. I'm the captain. Are you still fighting over position at a time like this? Only when the voices died down did they dare to peek out. But a piercing cry made the two turn their heads. Dad, Deputy Chief. Tuteen seemed unable to hold back her grievances, her eyes fixed on the two familiar backs. Dad, Deputy Chief, Dad. The sad call quickly turned to joy. When the sun rose, the little girl was returned to her father. He was overjoyed to have his precious daughter back and lifted Tuteen up. After the celebration, they went to see off their two saviors. Chusan ignored his swollen eyes to wave goodbye to everyone. Only Wotan was pensively looking at the wound on Chusan's hand. Red blood had soaked through several layers of white bandages. I'm just glad he escaped safely. After daring to catch an axe blade with his bare hands, he then walked along the road with Chusan, attracting many gazes. But thinking about him using that trick, it must be hereditary. Maybe. Anyway, I'm glad everything is okay. It was only then that Wotan had time for a heart-to-heart. What are you going to do now? Chusan replied as he walked up the stairs looking at him. I don't know. Actually, I have nothing. Since I don't have a plan, can we go together? Of course. But that was just an excuse. In his heart, Chusan had other plans. I don't know how the righteous sect and the red-faced old man deputy chief will react, so I can't stay here. Wait, if we go together, won't that put the old man and Wotan in danger? Before he could think further, Wotan deliberately teased him. I don't care. But you, a beggar who just escaped death, are now begging to run away. Seriously? I wonder, is your ability to become more shameless in every crisis a special power? Because of this, Chusan was fuming. What, it's not begging? It's a request. No, it's a proposal. Arriving at the door of their room, they started discussing who pays for food, who pays for drinks, who buys new things. Since he already had the reputation, Chusan decided to become a complete freeloader. I don't need new clothes. Wotan just kept teasing Chusan's words. At that point, isn't it beyond begging? And just being a freeloader. However, the smiles of both had to quickly fade because of a stern voice. Looking at you two, it seems you've had a lot of fun in the few days. I was away, huh? Li Trung gracefully sipped his tea and casually asked, the sword I lent you was useful, wasn't it? When Wotan saw him, it was like seeing his father, and he ran in excitedly. Old sir, it wasn't that interesting. What have you been doing these past few days? Old sir, you took 100 silver taels? Li Trung immediately put on a troubled expression. I had some things on my mind, so I went for a walk to look around. Anyway, I spent all the silver on gambling. Luckily, Hong Kat Ke was also there. Speaking of which, he got back to the main point. You two sit down. Do you know about the long-standing conflict between the righteous sect and the beggars sect in Trung Kin? Meanwhile, outside the inn, news was spreading like wildfire. Have you heard the news? The leader of Truong Thuong Trai is dead? The leader of Truong Thuong Trai is dead. Passers-by were all very curious. They say 2 young men did it. What? Are they the new stars of a big clan? Even by the coast, rumors were spreading. I heard one of them is a blacksmith from the Duong family. A blacksmith? How so? I'm not sure about that. While the crowd was getting on and off the boat, the locals there were whispering. Those pirates are such a nuisance. They won't come back again, right? Do you really think so? They're just lying low for a while. They'll be back. These remarks still echoed as the boat set sail. Is there any filth that flies don't swarm to? That's right. The person in charge of announcements quickly gave the signal. Departing for Nam Kin, the boat sailed out to sea. When we left Trung Kin, rumors about Truong Thuong Trai had spread throughout the city. On the deck of the boat, Wotan and Chusan were engrossed in watching the sea. It's been half a month since we hurriedly left Trung Kin. He smiled slightly, holding a bag of silver. That life-or-death battle brought an unexpected reward. Everyone was very happy to give money to Wotan. Those blacksmiths gave us 60 silver taels for boat fare, and the leader of Fong Da gave an extra 10 taels. Only Li Trung and Chusan tried to shake hands with him. We're business partners, so we split it 50-50. Votan ignored them and joked with the people. You have talent, I sell talent. Another farmer also gave him a rather heavy bag. And 3 gold pieces, as a token of gratitude from the merchants. Harassed by Trong Thuong Trai. Back in the present, he was still lost in thought with his sword. But the real reward was realizing that the moment I need strength will come unexpectedly. When the moon hung in the middle of the sky, Votan was still training relentlessly. If I had neglected my training on the way from Trung Kin, if I hadn't focused on the art of forging and absorbing the hack, hitting duok properly, I would have definitely been taken down by the pirates. Not to mention the leader of Trong Thuong Trai. He just focused on practicing his swordsmanship, ignoring the watching eyes. The boat trip to Nam Kin will take another half a month. I must train with all my might so I can keep a clear head at any time, no matter how shaken I am. Chusan stood to one side watching Votan with curiosity. When did he get so good? Since leaving Trung Kin, my sparring record with him is 7 wins and 8 losses. But he didn't get an answer in return, as Votan just kept burying himself in his ambition. One more step forward. As the sword pointed to the sky, Votan's vow was complete. I will become one with the sword. But the applause that followed made the smile on his lips vanish. That clueless person kept clapping his hands together. He put on a handsome face to apologize. Sorry. I came out to look at the moon and happened to see you practicing. Oh, it's already night. Only now was the man's name mentioned. My name is Nam Kung Min. If I may, could I have a match with you? A handsome face appeared between the sea and the sky. I am Nam Kung Min, eldest son of the Nam Kung clan, and a top-tier martial arts master. However, a hint of self-pity appeared on his handsome features. But now I am on a boat returning home, after a journey through the martial world, without gaining any fame at all. All I did was cut down a few mountain bandits and some small fry evil cultists. I fear my father's disappointment. Right after Kung Min was attracted by a pale hand. Then I met a girl who didn't care about the fame of the Nam Kung clan. Something that made everyone I met put up walls and selfish expectations. The breathtaking beauty of a young lady made his heart flutter. This is the first time I've met someone like her. Kung Min even blushed shyly thinking about her. Because she didn't care. I had to do my best to win her heart. But a cherry blossom petal unexpectedly fell into the water. I was free. He used his lightness skill to entertain her. The burdens of my clan vanished like morning dew. Her smile when she saw the cherry blossom branch made Kung Min's heart skip a beat. The days with her, she could only shyly cover her face as she looked at the flower branch presented to her. Right at that moment, the clueless Votan interrupted the romantic moment with the cherry blossom branch. This event was seared into his brain. That's when he appeared. Votan ignored all stares to whine and beg her. Someone has food poisoning. Please, could you give me that branch to use as medicine? The inner bark of this cherry tree is very good for treating food poisoning. The more Kung Min thought about it, the angrier he became. A ship's physician by day, a martial artist by night. But he could only watch as his love's affection was given to another. The patient is more important, Votan replied politely. Thank you, miss. That scene made Kung Min's eyes turn bloodshot. You really are a youth as radiant as a flower. But now he acted very friendly. May I have the honor of a match with you, great hero Duong? Votan's mind went completely blank at the proposal. A match isn't the Nam Kung clan more important. Unlike Votan, Kung Min had secretly been plotting for the sake of his beloved. I will defeat you. In the name of the Nam Kung clan. The hand holding the sword was as powerful as ever. She was slightly surprised to witness this scene. The thing in his hand was a wooden sword. Seeing this, Votan was a bit hesitant. Are you sure? Using a real sword against a wooden one, but Kung Min, trying to save face, pretended it was fine. I was the one who asked for a match while you were practicing. The great hero chattered on and on, though his heart was secretly thrilled. Moreover, thinking that a descendant of a long line of physicians has found his way into the path of martial arts, I only feel grateful for having my narrow worldview expanded. Thank you for being the highlight of my mediocre journey in the martial world. Over on this side, she was still looking for someone. Excuse me, have you seen young Master Nam Kung Min? Li Trung and Chusan stared blankly at her. Who? Votan was still frozen and replied, Yes, in that case I ask for your guidance. Actually, his heart had been in turmoil for a while. I feel like I've gotten myself into a huge mess. Before leaving Tushuyen, the Nam Kung clan was just a legend in the martial world. But I never expected him to be a Nam Kung descendant. He's clearly just trying to impress a girl. Votan faced the staring eyes, with 1,000 expressions. Moreover, that gaze, but what he showed was extreme anger. Exactly like the look of the annoying patients who used to come to the clinic. With that thought, Votan shouted and raised his sword like a beginner. I should just make a half-assed move and lose gracefully. He pretended to grimace as if using all his strength. Because of that action, Kung Min became even more arrogant. A sincere but slow sword strike. Just second-rate martial arts. At best, a sword strike. Aimed at the head, then feinting to the side. The corners of his lips curled up to his ears. Facing such a novice, my will to crush him suddenly wavers. Kung Min stomped his foot hard, silently praising himself to the heavens. No, it's opponents like these that need me to teach them a lesson. He began to twirl his sword, but his mind was pretending to be kind, so that later, he can handle a few mountain bandits on his own. Now Kung Min was sizing up Votan. I just need to use the subtlety of softness overcomes hardness to parry his sword, then execute the boundless sky technique. He calculated as he lightly followed the silver sword's path. While pretending to follow his sword's trajectory, Kung Min's sword quickly made an unusual movement. He had retracted his sword very forcefully. I'll change the sword's direction to parry, and then execute boundless sky. But the tip of Kung Min's sword suddenly fell off. A slash replayed in his mind. Was that the wooden sword tip that just parried the move? The sharp blade quickly flew past Kung Min's shoulder, leaving him stunned. This way it's heading straight for my shoulder. A flash of light shot through his eyes. Kung Min looked at Votan with a less than friendly gaze. This bastard, doesn't he know how to use a sword? No, it was my own softness overcomes hardness technique that made his sword accelerate, making it impossible for him to stop. A moment later, a piece of precious brocade cloth was torn. Votan looked at him with some concern. The sight of Kung Min doing a handstand became the center of attention. Votan was so terrified that he dropped to his knees. Sorry, I'm used to sparring with a real sword, so I accidentally made the wooden sword too dangerous. But the hand the man offered made him fall silent. Kung Min gallantly waved his finger. It's nothing. This kind of thing happens often in our Nam Kung clan. The wooden sword must have been of poor quality. Only after a while did he manage to get up, then bowed again. Thank you for teaching me a new lesson. Great hero Duong. Votan, understanding, tried to downplay it. No, I'm the one who should apologize for giving you a wooden sword. Out of poor quality. He feigned awkwardness and tried to withdraw from the situation. We don't have any other wooden swords, so let's end it here. But Kung Min, clueless, continued to press. By the way, that was a magnificent sword strike. I didn't feel any pain when I was cut. I feel like I've just had an epiphany. I don't want to lose this train of thought. Votan, however, was silently dissatisfied with him. I gave him a way out by blaming the wooden sword, but he wouldn't listen. Right after that, Kung Min pulled out an exquisitely carved sword. Please give me a little more of your time. The golden emblem on it seemed to absorb all the light and shone brilliantly. Votan froze at the proposal. A match with real swords? Fearing he would refuse, the man even swore an oath. I won't use internal energy or any dangerous sword techniques. I can't let this flashy kid waste all my effort. She stood to one side, covering her face in fear, unable to watch. My pure heart has turned to nothing. With that thought, Nam Kung bluntly drew his sword. The 5 great sword arts of the Nam Kung clan with the 3-wind sword. I will show him the ultimate path of the Nam Kung. He opened his wide mouth and shouted, I request your guidance. Votan was also overwhelmed by that internal energy. Yes, I was overwhelmed by his presence and agreed. How serious is he about that girl? Very quickly he repeated his old move. All right, then here I come again. Votan, not wanting to embarrass Kung Min, thought hard. If it's the same sword technique, I just need to block it correctly, right? On the contrary, the man had a different mindset. Same sword technique, but the result will be different. In a flash, the two crossed swords again. Maybe it's not softness overcomes hardness. But Kung Min played another trick, making Votan's sword follow his. I will respond in kind. But halfway through, his sword was cracked by Votan's. Kung Min froze completely when he saw the small collision. My 3-wind sword. His feet unconsciously stepped back. It's being broken. As for Votan, he continued to charge forward. But Kung's expression made Votan's eyes widen. He had used internal energy in a moment of distraction. Only after a while did Kung Min realize with a start. I promised not to use internal energy. Before he could react, Votan was a step faster and separated their swords. Votan was officially angry seeing him break his promise. Great hero Nam Kung, you clearly said you wouldn't use internal energy. Kung Min had no choice but to humble himself. I apologize. In the Nam Kung clan, fighting for real is a habit. Please forgive my discourtesy. However, this time, Votan lectured him very directly. Even so, a promise is a promise. Every sentence ends with the Nam Kung clan. It's a good thing no one got hurt. With that, Votan annoyedly sheathed his sword. Let's end the match here. Kung Min, on the other hand, was forgotten, so he couldn't object. All right. As soon as he bowed his head low, the hatred within him grew. In a short time, I made a fool of myself 3 times, and even used my clan's name to cover up the shame. If this rumor spreads, Kung Min's gaze quickly followed the back of Votan, who was complaining to anyone else. As soon as he saw me secretly watching him practice, it immediately became a duel. That arrogant Nam Kung clan. I just ruined a good wooden sword. I only tolerated it because you belong to a great clan. Then his pupils shifted to the crack, which surprised Kung Min. No, that's not the problem. If I return like this, my father and the elders will all punish me. Just thinking of the dark faces in his subconscious made him lose control. No! Kung Min's face suddenly darkened, hiding some thoughts. Father will kill me. Even Votan could feel the killing intent watching him, but had no proof. But Kung Min's whole body began to tremble uncontrollably. How did things get to this point? I was wrong, I was wrong. Please forgive me. I was wrong, I was wrong. Please forgive me, please forgive me. In his panic, Kung Min's mind jumped to something else. It's not my fault. What is that sword anyway? Is it a divine sword? It's a divine sword. The sword wrapped in red iron caught his eye. Kung Min forgot his image and rushed in front of Votan, making him a bit disgusted. Hey, you don't need to beg for forgiveness to that extent. The match ended strangely, but in the end Votan was still magnanimous and let it all go. Thinking about it, you gave me very favorable conditions from the start. So let's just consider it a small accident. He took advantage of this to exploit the situation. Thank you. By the way, great hero Duong, could you sell that sword to me? But the response he got was a blunt refusal. Sell my sword, I'm afraid I can't. It's a very special sword to me. Although Kung Min didn't get his way, he still had to humble himself and bow his head. I understand. I apologize for making an unreasonable request. Thank you for spending your precious time with me. Good night. After he left, Votan began to judge him. He's a dangerous man in many ways. I've never seen anyone more selfish than that beggar Hong. With that thought, he stretched to relax, but he didn't know that Kung Min's smile was gradually turning malicious. There's still a week before the boat docks. It's best to stay away from him if possible. The long time finally passed, and they reached the dock. A week later, inside the ship's cabin, a shout was heard. My sword! Chusan, hearing the familiar voice, rushed in. What's wrong? The scene inside was Votan, trembling on a messy pile of clothes. That bastard! Not only did veins start popping on his forehead, but killing intent also rose. Are you kidding me? Over on this side, the familiar sword was tightly strapped to a horse's saddle. Kung Min had long since fled with his stolen goods. He galloped away with an indescribable feeling of joy. The divine sword, I've obtained the divine sword. The vision in his mind satisfied Kung Min. My debut in the martial world is a resounding success. In the heart of the majestic landscape was a vast palace, a display of wealth and power of the time. The gate was sturdily built and tall. On both sides, 2 soldiers stood guard strictly. Above a large sign bore the characters Nam Kung. Inside the palace, a man on a horse leisurely entered a small alley. He gently stroked the horse that was eating greedily after a long journey. Eating like that will give you indigestion. How fast did you run? The man observed and stopped guessing from the horse's body. Seeing all the mud splattered on your belly, young Master Min must have gotten quite muddy too. His voice, the young master sincere and worried. Regardless, I hope, the results of the young master's martial world debut will please the family head. I was worried that after being away for so long, I'd just get an earful when I got back. At the main palace, Nanggong Ming, his body covered in mud and dirt, with a precious item, supposedly a gift, carefully wrapped. He looked up at the dragon in front of the gate. The deep pressure inside him surged up again. Nanggong Ming straightened his clothes. He slapped his cheeks to psyche himself up. Right after Nanggong Ming burst through the doors of the grand palace, heroically calling out, "Father," his voice echoed throughout the room, drawing the attention of the 3 elders of the Nanggong family. Your son has completed his martial world debut and has returned. Nanggong Ming quickly knelt and bowed, simultaneously taking out the carefully prepared gift. He hastily unwrapped the outer cloth. Inside was a sword with exquisite carvings. Clearly no ordinary object. Nanggong Ming with a triumphant look in his eyes. I have something urgent to show you. In contrast to the commotion, the 3 of them were strangely calm. An elder stepped towards Nanggong Ming. Zhentian looked down, his expression extremely grim. I see. You just got back and you already have something to show me. It must have been quite a spectacular martial world debut, huh? His questioning voice was terrifyingly cold. So important that you had to interrupt a meeting of the elders. Nanggong Ming bowed his head subserviently. Zhentian reached out and took the sword. The pressure made Nanggong Ming tremble like a leaf. Before the Nanggong gate, a crowd gathered like it was a festival. The Wu Jin group had also arrived. Li Chong clicked his tongue. So a banquet to celebrate a successful martial world debut. That Nanggong Ming guy. He must be the son of Nanggong Zhentian. Wu Jin, hearing that, was floored. What? One of the 6 supreme masters, the sword demon Nanggong Zhentian, looking at the grand banquet hall inside. Li Chong explained. Exactly. That's why they're holding such a grand banquet. and it must have been a very successful debut. Successful? A sarcastic smile crossed his face. Because he stole 4 swords. Wu Jin's expression turned serious. You mean... The 3 of them Li Chong. Wu Jin and the others entered. Wu Jin was confused. How can theft be a success? Li Chong crossed his arms and explained, You think he's going to say I stole these swords? Father. He analyzed. He'll surely make up a plausible story about how he obtained the swords like it was destined to be. Like that stage over there. Wu Jin frowned. Sounds so dramatic. But Li Chong's voice was high with excitement. No, actually, this works out great. A banquet with a large audience is perfect for catching a thief whose father is Nangong Gentian. The naive Wu Jin still didn't get it. Do you have a plan? Li Chong asked back, a plan? You think some half-baked plan would work? On a sword demon who has reached the pinnacle, the head of the most powerful family in the martial world, Wu Jin hesitantly shared his opinion. Then wouldn't it be better to come after the banquet is over? Wouldn't it be better? If we crash the party, we'll just make more enemies. Li Chong burst out laughing at Wu Jin's naivete. You're so dumb. Better to be a mad dog than a pushover. He explained to Wu Jin, the nobles will think completely differently. Their family's face is their entire world. There's only one way to handle those noble families. Li Chong grinned with delight. Expose their ugly side in front of everyone, like a mad dog. Just then the man waved and approached. He called out warmly, Hey Li Chong, a welcome as if they'd known each other for a long time. Didn't expect you to come to the banquet. That man was Nangong Genya. Li Chong quickly returned the greeting in a savage manner, startling Wu Jin. It's been almost 15 years, hasn't it, Nangong Genya? Does that left arm I cut off still itch? Genya, still cheerful, showed off, the severed arm hidden beneath his sleeve. You still have that same smart mouth, huh? It makes me stand out, you know. But you should say, you cut off and saved an arm that was rotting from poison. With that, he turned to Wu Jin. By the way, it's the first time I've seen you with a companion. Who is this young man? Li Chong didn't hide it. A physician I happened to travel with. He introduced, he has some business with your family, too. Upon hearing that, Genye's face immediately paled. Business. The moment he finished speaking, the gong for the opening ceremony sounded. A servant's respectful voice, the Nangong, family head Nangong Gentian and the young master Nangong Ming. They entered amidst cheers of congratulations. Hero of Nangong. Congratulations. Nangong Ming led the way, in his hands an exquisitely carved wooden box. Gentian and Gensong followed behind, their expressions always stern. The sword was taken out of the box and displayed on a pre-prepared wooden stand. Looking down at the packed Nangong Grand Hall, Gentian flicked his sleeve and welcomed them in a loud voice. Thank you all for attending the ceremony to celebrate my son's debut in the martial world. Though still inexperienced, he encountered an opportunity during his debut. He introduced modestly and acquired a divine sword. So I raise my glass to the heavens. Nangong Ming sat to one side, listening, his pride swelling. The guests below also raised their glasses in congratulations. To the heroes, let us celebrate this heaven-sent opportunity. Gentian raised his wine cup high with pride and honored the Nangong clan. The atmosphere became even more lively, with Gentian's shouts. Congratulations to Nangong Gentian, to the hero Nangong Ming, who has done a righteous deed. Nangong Ming, standing beside his father, raised his cup, unable to hide his smugness. He was still reveling in his victory, unaware of the storm about to hit. Below at the banquet, after a while of talking with Li Chong, Genya was trembling, his face darkened. That sword, Minger obtained it. How could he tell such a monumental lie? Genya clenched his fist. If the family head finds out the truth, he will surely destroy his Dantian. No, he will lock him in the Thunder Prison for life. Wu Jin was a bit surprised. Destroy his Dantian. He turned to ask Li Chong. Really, not even an enemy would do that. But to punish his own son to that extent, Li Chong's face was stern. That is the value of a noble family's reputation. If the family's reputation is tarnished, looking up at the 2 smug faces above, he affirmed, then even his own son must be seen as an enemy. That is the responsibility of a family head. Li Chong's voice was firm. Keeping the family's name clean is the responsibility of every descendant. Wu Jin began to hesitate. He's definitely a jerk, but if I take the sword back, looking at Nangong Ming's detestable face, he couldn't imagine the punishment he was about to receive. Then that guy will... But this decision made Wu Jin look miserable, his fear showing. Suddenly a hand grabbed his. It was Genye. He pleaded, Physician Tang, I will compensate you. So can you overlook Minger's mistake? Just this once. Wu Jin was flustered. But the heroic Li Chong, standing to one side, cut in with a growl. Stop talking nonsense, Nangong Genye. If you say that, it's not a request, it's a crime. But his eyes were even scarier than the words he spoke. Furthermore, how can someone from the exalted sword clan like the Nangong family ask a martial artist whose sword was stolen to turn a blind eye? Genya was surprised. He's not just a physician. but then he resigned himself to it. I understand. Since he's with you, Li Chong, this companion must be both a physician and a martial artist. While the banquet was in full swing, Zhenya bowed his head to Wu Jin. He let go of Wu Jin's hand. It is Physician Tang's decision, but please reconsider one more time. Zhenya didn't dare to look up. He tried to salvage things for Minger. What Minger did? He only wanted his father's approval. The atmosphere fell silent again. Li Chong spoke sharply. Justice must be served. Skills and mistakes must be borne by oneself. Zhenya's expression couldn't get any worse. Li Chong's voice was steady. I understand your concern for the clan's eldest son, but you are the one who should change. Zhenya seemed to have a realization, looking up at Zhen Tian's ever-stern face. Li Chong continued. The Nangong family, which you and your brother protect together. He emphasized with an indescribable power. Are you really going to place someone who only hides behind that title in the position of the next family head? Li Chong left with a final word. If not, don't be so quick to interfere. He walked off like a true gentleman, concerned with nothing but justice. Li Chong's figure stood out in the crowd, but he didn't go all the way to the front, stopping behind a few people. Li Chong lifted his foot, high, catching the attention of Zhen Tian and Nangong Ming. The power radiating from him overwhelmed everything. Wu Jin, feeling it, was utterly shocked. Zhenya pressed his lips together tightly. Li Chong brought his foot down. Before it even touched the ground, it created an immense pressure. Li Chong's foot made the ground shake. Everyone fell over, unable to keep their balance. Someone broke a wine glass. Only Zhen Tian held his cup steady, his face dark as he looked down. Li Chong spoke up. Hello? Just like Li Chong. Everything has to be over the top. He spoke first. Long time no see, hero of Nangong. Zhen Tian, sorry for interrupting the celebration. The next words he uttered were like a stone tied to Nangong Ming's neck. But I've come to reclaim my sword. All the banquet guests turned their eyes to Li Chong. Li Chong pointed and declared, the name of the sword is the spirit-dividing sword. It is that man's sword. Physician. Zhen Tian looked up. Only Nangong Ming didn't dare to look up. Wu Jin was so surprised he didn't know what to do. Zhen Tian had been provoked and could no longer sit still. Eccentric physician Li Chong, you appear, after a long time, and speak nonsense just like your nickname. But you are not one to fabricate stories. His face hardened. What is this about? Nangong Ming bit his lip, trembling at his father's questioning. Speak. Let me hear it. Wu Jin rushed forward. Li Chong watched with amusement the drama he himself had created. He spoke slowly. Young Master Nangong Ming, who has completed his debut in the martial world, has obtained the sword. Suddenly, Wu Jin rushed out from nowhere and stood in front of Li Chong. Sir Nangong Zhen Tian, he cried out anxiously, I will explain. Zhen Tian calmly listened to Wu Jin's explanation. Recently, my family's heirloom, the soul-severing sword, was stolen. Nangong Ming bit his lip, shaking uncontrollably. Wu Jin skillfully presented his case. While searching everywhere, I heard it had fallen into the hands of young Master Nangong Ming, so I came here to find it. Li Chong was also somewhat satisfied. Hearing this, the crowd began to murmur. Wu Jin timidly took the blame, before Zhen Tian's dark expression. The fault for not protecting the sword is mine. He bowed his head and pleaded, but please help me ensure the family heirloom is safe. Everyone fell silent after hearing that. The atmosphere turned from cheerful to indescribably heavy. Nangong Ming was in turmoil. Is he covering up the fact that I stole it? Why doesn't it matter more? He glanced at his father. I have to figure out how father will react. Suddenly, Zhen Tian left his seat and approached the sword. Zhen Tian touched the hilt and pulled it sharply from the sheath. Instantly, a flash of light appeared before Wu Jin. As a result, the head of a small unknown family could not guess his intentions at all. The sword was now stuck neatly in the ground in front of Wu Jin. Li Chong felt extremely excited. This really is a grand banquet. The family head himself is stirring things up. Zhen Tian spoke. Can you prove that this is your family's heirloom sword? His gaze was even more imposing. If you can't prove it, then you will be held responsible. Understood. A chill ran down Wu Jin's spine. That gaze is so intense. If I can't prove it, looking at the sword in front of him, he worried, I'm going to die. Wu Jin turned to Li Chong for help. What should I do? What do I do, old sir? Li Chong looked at him and let out a sigh. Let's see what you'll do to prove it's the family heirloom. Wu Jin was helpless. His master's eyes seemed to say, handle it yourself. He glanced down at the sword. I said it was a family heirloom, so I can't just make one to show them. Or maybe I should say, I can make an identical one. A spark lit up in Wu Jin's eyes. I can make an identical one. He spoke up, surprising Zhen Tian. Sir. Wu Jin picked up the sword and said confidently, this sword, the soul-severing sword, has a secret technique, even. Zhen Tian couldn't have expected the little brat in front of him to be so bold. If you use the family's secret technique in a hot, uninhabited place, Wu Jin's eyes lit up as he revealed the sword can give birth. Li Chong, standing to the side, was dumbfounded. A secret technique to give birth. What is this lunatic talking about? Wu Jin continued, it's currently pregnant. It's due in just 5 days. The entire banquet hall was stunned by his words. A second later, they couldn't help but burst out laughing, because it was so absurd. People began to mock him. Wu Jin felt a little guilty. Giving birth, did I go too far? Suddenly, Zhen Tian's voice boomed. Li Chong! You vouched for Tang Wu Jin? His voice was full of schemes. To embarrass Wu Jin for his nonsense, can you guarantee that's the truth? Unexpectedly, Li Chong answered immediately. Of course. He declared firmly, Li Chong may joke around, but he absolutely does not lie. Everyone had a different expression at Li Chong's answer. Things had come to this point. Zhen Tian had to make a deal. Tang Wu Jin, go to the abandoned forge at the foot of the southern hill. However, if you don't bring back the child that this sword gives birth to, after 5 days, you and this eccentric physician will offer up your heads. Cut to the abandoned forge. Li Chong sat calmly in the courtyard. He suddenly exclaimed, no! Wu Jin, carrying a bundle of firewood, walked past and asked, What do you mean, no? He inquired, is it about the sword giving birth? Li Chong denied it. Whether it gives birth or breastfeeds, that's not the issue. He looked up at the sky and asked Wu Jin, why do you think I said, it's better to be a mad dog than an easy target? Wu Jin tilted his head, confused. So you don't look like easy prey, Li Chong agreed. That's right. The most important thing to not be seen as easy prey is to fight back, he added. Li Chong's voice was a bit sad. In that sense, you're already a perfect pushover. But Wu Jin stuck to his guns. Not a pushover, but the bearing of a great man. Please say it like that. Please, an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth. That doesn't suit me. Li Chong was annoyed. Even the old master is ganging up on me. But he corrected him sternly. This is not a matter for showing kindness. Most things in life can be overlooked. He looked at Wu Jin, his voice tense. But just as you shouldn't repay kindness with malice, you also shouldn't repay malice with kindness. Wu Jin was flustered by Li Chong's anger. Both Ye and Nanggong Ming are grateful. They'll appreciate me, according to you. How should I explain this to fully satisfy both sides? Li Chong was blunt. If you were a frontier physician, it wouldn't matter. But from now on, your opponents are martial artists. He used an analogy for his disciple to understand. 10 out of 10 times, if you repay kindness with malice, you make an enemy. But if you repay malice with kindness, you're just inviting jackals to bite your neck. Wu Jin was still stubborn. Then I just need to show kindness. Better to have 1 enemy than 10. That very statement proves you don't understand the nature of a martial artist. A martial artist's malice always ends in blades and blood, and the truth is always cruel. Meanwhile, deep in the forest, the flickering flames had attracted a hungry wolf. Li Chong pressed his hand on Wu Jin's chest. An enemy must always be kept in front of you. He couldn't hold back and flicked Wu Jin's head to knock some sense into him. Don't create danger behind your back with cheap kindness. Even if you're bothered by what Nanggong Zhenye said, you shouldn't go soft. That's what I'm trying to say. With that, Li Chong flopped back down. You are a physician. Whether you like it or not, you will have to show countless acts of kindness. You must remember that. He glanced at Wu Jin with a hint of pity. Understood. Good or bad, what you receive, you must give back. Don't wait until you get hit to realize it. Out there, the wolf had also been taken down by a mysterious person. Wu Jin replied with a yes, showing he understood, then went back to diligently working on the sword's birth. With Li Chong guarding outside the forge, 5 days later, most of the guests from the grand banquet gathered at the Nanggong estate, waiting for the result. The child sword that Wu Jin had delivered was bewitchingly beautiful. Its lines were even softer and more delicate than the mother sword. The sound and trajectory of the blade were also fluid and smooth, so much so that the opponent's sword had broken in half, without them even realizing it. The broken piece of the sword fell to the ground, to everyone's astonishment. Everyone's eyes were wide with shock. A sword from the 3 great clans was broken in half. Everyone was stunned by the child sword, from Wu Jin's story. It's a divine sword. They're both divine swords. The appraiser concluded that both were genuine. The more Nanggong Ming listened, the more worried he became. Surely one of them has to be fake. I thought, you just found a similar sword in 5 days. But it really looks like a sword that gave birth to a child sword. The appraiser examined the sword closely. Furthermore, the sharpness of the blade, the vibration as it cuts through the air, the perfect balance without any feeling of weight. I can't even tell which one is the sword Minger brought back earlier. Then he concluded with certainty, before Wu Jin's confident expression, like twin swords made by the same person. Zhen Tian suddenly burst out laughing. His laughter was more manic than ever before. Just as you said, they are twin swords. Then Zhen Tian suddenly pointed in another direction, because the mother sword is right there. Wu Jin coordinated and raised the sword high. Wu Jin swung his sword and broke the appraiser's sword. They're all real. Then he raised the sword high, for everyone to admire. 3 swords. Nanggong Ming was still trying to play along, refusing to admit his guilt. I don't know how you did it, But since you've proven you're the owner of the sword, justice prevails. Suddenly, Wu Jin stood in front of him and repeated the 4 words Nanggong Ming had just said. Justice prevails. That's right. Even an ordinary stray dog finds a den when it's about to give birth. In the end, Wu Jin still helped Nanggong Ming hide his crime. Whatever the circumstances, he must have a reason for this sword to have come to young Master Nanggong Ming. Thank you, young master, for protecting the soul-severing sword all this time. He smiled warmly and handed the sword to Nanggong Ming. Please cherish it. Sitting in a guest room at the Nanggong estate, Wu Jin's relieved voice spoke up. I really thought I was a goner. Anyway, it's good that it ended this way, right? Old Sir Li Chong scoffed. Are you talking about hiding your trembling legs? He patiently advised, as you said. This time things went smoothly. But there's no guarantee it'll always be like that. Never forget that pack of hyenas. Wu Jin hugged the sword and sighed. Yes, I'll keep that in mind. But Li Chong's meaning made Wu Jin curious. Besides, this isn't completely over yet. He grinned. Debts are always give and take. Now it's time for us to collect partner. Wu Jin asked, puzzled, collect? The moment he finished speaking, a knock came from outside. Zhentian entered sword in hand. Nanggong Ming tagged along behind. Li Chong sarcastically remarked, speak of the tiger and he appears. That same gaze and aura, the unmistakable presence of Nanggong Zhentian. As for Nanggong Ming, he just wanted to dig a hole and crawl into it. Zhentian began slowly. First, I must apologize. My foolish son has committed a grave sin. I heard Minger ran off with the sword. Is that right? Wu Jin broke out in a sweat, flustered. Zhentian quickly reassured him. You don't need to beat around the bush. When I asked him directly, he confessed everything. He returned the sword to Wu Jin. Now that everything is clear, I must repay the debt for his wrongdoing. Wu Jin looked up shyly. Repay the debt. Zhentian questioned his son. Minger, what happened to the maid who stole the silver ring 2 years ago? Wu Jin vaguely guessed. Everyone fell silent, waiting for Nanggong Ming's answer. Nanggong Ming's voice trembled. Her wrist was... The answer seemed to solve all questions. Wu Jin and Li Chong's eyes widened. Cut off! Zhentian continued, his eyes showing no compromise. The verdict is set. The sword was drawn without hesitation. Before Wu Jin's astonished eyes, the image of a father swinging a sword at his son was terrifyingly cruel. Memories suddenly flooded back. An afternoon of sword practice at the dojo. The young Nanggong Ming back then was so diligent and adorable. A sign with Nanggong and a statue of a dragon had become a symbol in Nanggong Ming's mind. He reminisced, in every memory I have, I held a sword in my hand. Playing gradually became learning, then a way of life. Always honest and precise in practicing the predetermined sword forms. The thoughts from the depths of his father's mind were ingrained in him. That was the path my father and the clan laid out for me. The path to becoming the family head, forged through discipline and training. That face of his father appeared. Nanggong Ming was a little scared. I could endure it, whether it was discipline training or cruel beatings. Both as a child and now, whenever I had to face my father's cold back, Nanggong Ming always felt uneasy. That back told me that I was still lacking. Rise up and be worthy of the position of family head. But like an invisible pressure built up over the years, he defied everything and shouted, at any cost! At any cost! That's why I stole the sword. That craving for recognition had strangled the integrity in Nanggong Ming. Whether it's despicable or dirty, as long as I achieve my goal, it's fine. Just by becoming strong thanks to obtaining the divine sword, I think I was praised for the first time. But then he suddenly came to his senses. That was just an excuse I made for myself. I've been living by clinging to that excuse. The moment his father swung the sword, he felt as if a great weight had been lifted. But now I don't need to make excuses anymore. Suddenly, the hilt of a sword blocked the blade's path, which should have taken Nanggong Ming's hand. Nanggong Ming's eyes were stunned. If it weren't for that hilt, he would probably be like Zhen Ye. The person who blocked Zhen Tian's sword was none other than Wu Jin. Zhen Tian questioned young Master Tang, why did you block the sword? Isn't it the hand's fault? So shouldn't it pay the price with a hand? Wu Jin gritted his teeth and replied, it is indeed a fault. But he responded with reason against reason. You've heard the whole story, haven't you? I was also taught to give back what I receive. Wu Jin calmly explained, but what have I received to repay young Master Ming's mistake? Besides, even if I have repaid it, paid is paid. These words stunned everyone. Wu Jin immediately refuted Zhen Tian's logic. Why retie a knot that has already been untied? Zhen Tian sheathed his sword, clicking his tongue. Wise words. He also raised his sword in thanks. Because your intention is right, I will not argue further on this matter. Your generosity has saved the wrist of the eldest son of the Nanggong family. As the head of a family, Zhen Tian proposed, thanks to you, we have both hidden the shame of the Nanggong family and gained a precious sword. So how should I repay the 3 favors you have granted the Nanggong family? By what means? The next morning, the sun still shone down on the land. A servant led Wu Jin and Li Chong out. Last night, Nanggong Ming had kowtowed in gratitude to Wu Jin all night. I will definitely repay this debt one day. Everything seemed to have been settled amicably. As they were about to leave, the servant asked, "Did you really forge a divine sword in just 5 days?" Wu Jin was dumbfounded. "You knew," the servant reasoned. "I just guessed. When I saw your palms were red and raw and your fingernails had rust on them." He was full of admiration. "The world is vast and truly full of extraordinary people. Thank you so much for helping Minger." Wu Jin scratched his head shyly. "Extraordinary. I'm not like that at all." He was still thinking about Nanggong Ming. But is he really going to repay the favor that old man already took everything he could get, didn't he? Yesterday, Li Chong had demanded a whole list, access to the Tianwu library, all elixirs, medicinal herbs, poisons, and even a sparring session with the family head. Zhentian had just nodded in agreement. "I understand." Wu Jin didn't get it. Why ask that of someone who doesn't know what to ask for? If he wants to repay the favor, that's fine. Suddenly, the servant turned back. "This may be meddling, but the Shaolin are probably looking forward to meeting you." Wu Jin was curious. "The Shaolin?" The servant recounted, "That's right. Since I was young, they've searched all over the Central Plains for people with skilled hands. I heard there's a mechanism they can't seem to fix." Li Chong guessed. "Sounds like they're talking about the wooden dummy alley." Wu Jin was surprised. "The wooden dummy alley," Li Chong explained. "It's a special formation of mechanisms. The Shaolin are on the way to Luoyang, so if you get a chance, you should check it out." After a while of talking, they arrived before a large gate. Li Hong reminded him. "But first, let's start with the first repayment." The gate opened, leaving Wu Jin with his jaw on the floor. The servant introduced, as promised, "You may look at one book under my supervision, so choose carefully." Wu Jin excitedly scanned the room. "Thank you, sir." The head of the house glanced at Li Chong, who was searching through the books. Wu Jin asked curiously, "What are you looking for?" "Old Sir A Sword Manual. A divine technique." Li Chong pulled down a rather old book. The title on the book was Fleeing Monkey Technique. Wu Jin looked at the book and pouted in disdain. "Fleeing monkey? I trained with a sword just to learn about monkeys." The servant was also confused. "There are better sword manuals over there." Wu Jin couldn't accept it. "Aren't there any sword manuals? I want one with divine technique at the end of the title." Li Chong gave a savage smile. "Shut up. Memorize this before you get your elixirs." Wu Jin dejectedly replied, "Yes." A moment later, the servant brought back 3 strange bags. Li Chong asked, "Have you memorized it all?" Wu Jin was confused. "Yes, but I don't understand any of it." Li Chong instructed, "That's enough. Chant it every time you practice." Wu Jin looked skeptical. "Will this really work?" Li Chong's voice cut in. "Anyway." He took a handful of the hot stuff that was just brought, grinning sinisterly before explaining. "Eat this first." Wu Jin was force-fed. "What are you feeding me, sir? Your expression is so scary." The shape of the hot stuff was like a parasite. Combined with Li Chong's strange, distorted gaze, it was even more disgusting.